Welcome everyone. Take their seats. Thank you very much. So just to welcome you all here this evening, especially hello to all our friends in the gallery, and just to remind you that this is a public meeting, and for you all to be aware that the meeting will be recorded and published on the council's website about 48 hours, sometimes earlier, after the conclusion of the meeting, and audio and vision of any persons making deputations and visions of persons present in the gallery could well be captured in the recording. So big smiles, please. That would be good. Make you look good. As to begin our meeting tonight, I would like us to stand, members to stand to read the pledge, and those in the gallery are very welcome to stand with us. So together, councillors, we recognise this city's considerable natural and cultural heritage, including thousands of years of traditional ownership by Ghana, and the more recent contribution from people either born here or who have migrated here. As we meet together, we build on this heritage by respecting and listening to each other, thinking clearly, being receptive to new ideas, speaking honestly, and deciding wisely for the current and future well-being of those we serve. Thanks, everyone. Just to ensure that we can conduct our business in a safe and sensible way, I just want to remind members of the public who are in the gallery here that you're here to watch us do our work and deliberate on some of the issues that are, all of the issues that are on our agenda tonight. And I just remind you that you're here as observers and can't participate in the meeting unless you are here for a deputation. And I ask that noise is kept to a minimum so people can hear all the proceedings as clearly as possible. Just also that if there is any disorderly behaviour, the South Australian legislation sets out some mechanisms, including that it is an offence and carrying a maximum penalty of $1,250. We've got quite a lot on this evening, so let us begin with the confirmation of the minutes. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Rillette. Moving the minutes.
No, I'd just like to have a comment about the sound in the gallery. A few people have given me feedback that they can't hear things and that the glass is in the way, so perhaps that could be turned up or...
Sure. So can I ask elected members, the easiest way is if we speak really closely to the microphone, clearly and slowly. That will be enormous assistance to the gallery. Are you moving the minutes as well, Councillor Rillette?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. And seconding, Councillor Themeliotis? Oops, sorry. Thank you. Any questions?
No.
All those in favour? The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. There is no adjourned business, item 3. We do have a leave of absence for Councillor Fisher. Is Councillor Greaves?
Thank you. Yes, happy to move that.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Themeliotis?
Happy to second.
Thank you. Any questions? Can we put the motion? All those in favour? And the motion is carried. Thank you. And we do wish Councillor Fisher good health. The next is the Mayor's report, and I do have a couple of small amendments just to make to this. You'll notice on page 11, those of you who are following digitally, that Councillor Marisa Bell was actually an apology for the McLaren Vale Business and Tourism Association, AGM, and an apology was also from myself for the Aldinga Bowling Club. So those two changes. Are there someone willing to move the minutes? Councillor Bell?
Yes, I'm willing to move.
Thank you. Sorry, the minutes report. Councillor Themeliotis.
Second.
Any questions? Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That motion is carried. Councillor Rillette, were you able to vote on that? Yes, thank you. Just checking. Thank you. All right. We are now up to item 6, which are, and we don't have any presentations this evening, and item 7 are deputations. So we did have some requests for deputations. Is Gary Goland here with us? Oh, yes, there he is. If you'd like to come forward, Mr. Goland, and you'll be let through up here. Thank you very much. And just as he's making his way, just to let you all know, Gary's involved with the Friends of the Byards Road Wetland and installation of toilets at Byards Road, and which is at Reynella East, that some of you will be very familiar with. And I know it's been a topic close to the heart of a number of people in this chamber. So Gary, just to let you know, you've got 8 minutes. You can use them as much as you like, but when that time is up, I will ask you to stop. And are you willing to take questions from our elected members? Thank you. Your time starts now.
So having a toilet at the Byards Rd Wetland is critical to servicing community attendance for a length of time that enables exploration of nature's life at the wetland. Such attendance assists many factors related to well-being and more positive appreciation of being able to be there. I have previously heard from several people at the site that they would not spend time because of the toilet needs, and have been most disappointed that toilets were not present. By approving toilet installation, Council will be lifting a very positive community appreciation of the wetlands. I'd also like to relate encountering just briefly Councillor Rillet and the CEO, Newton, recently at the wetlands, and I was most appreciative of the opportunity to reflect on further positive actions such as species identification, signage and pond islands in time for the wetland. Such change has been discussed within our friends group over a number of years. The toilet installation will be adding real value to the wetlands and community interest in the greater environment interest and intrigue. The value on the installation of the toilet will provide for greater opportunity for the local community and others beyond to attend the wetlands and enjoy nature. That all has enormous value to all of us. The Friends of Byards Road Wetland would love to have council interaction for the development of actions for the wetlands, for nature, for education and community wellbeing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? No. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate you being here, and we look forward to seeing how tonight's resolves. Thank you very much. Next we do have a deputation request from Yvonne, Wenham and John Houlihan, which we approved and was advised at 5:46 that unfortunately due to unforeseen circumstances we're unable to present our deputation at tonight's council meeting that was received from Yvonne Wenham, so they will not be with us this evening. There was a third deputation which I refused, and I'll read out my reasons for that. The refusal was for a deputation from Mark Nielsen. In accordance with the local government meeting regulation 11.3, I have refused Mr Nielsen's deputation request on legislative changes to the Local Government Elections Act for the following reasons. Matters relating to the Local Government Elections Act and any requests related to legislation change should be directed to the state government. Council does not have the power to change South Australian legislation. Since Mr Nielsen's summary dismissal of his petition to the Court of Disputed Returns on Friday the 14th of July 2023, he has published commentary on social media that he intends to undertake further legal proceedings against Council and continues to make unfounded allegations against Council of wrongdoing, specifically that of criminal defamation. During Mr Nielsen's previous deputation, he made reference his then impending legal proceedings with the Electoral Commission and Council. These comments were not related to his deputation and were assertion of incorrect statements of legal responsibility. Upon notification of refusal of his August 2023 deputation, Mr. Nielsen sent staff and elected members an email which contained further unfounded allegations and included offensive references to both elected members and staff. So therefore, as previously advised, due to past and unknown future potential unsubstantiated claims or the initiation of further legal proceedings by Mr. Nielsen, it's not appropriate for him to address the council, and that is why I've refused the deputation. Councillor-elect.
Okay, as a point of order, I wish to put forward a motion in response to a request for deputation by Mark Nielsen being rejected. In accordance with the local government meeting regulations 11.6, the council, all council.
Excuse me, Ms. Councillor-elect, you can move a motion. It's not a point of order. So do you wish to make that a motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so would you like to just frame it that you're moving a motion?
That the council votes to accept the deputation of Mark Nielsen.
Do you wish to debate now?
Yes, I do.
So you have 4 minutes. Off you go.
Okay, in accordance with the local government act meeting regulation 11.6, the council or council committee may resolve to allow a deputation to appear despite a contrary ruling by the presiding member. It's now been 4 times since Mark Nielsen's request for a deputation has been rejected, and I don't believe this is justified or that sufficient reasons have been given. He has wanted to speak against the recommendations this council will be making to the local government association, change legislation for council elections, change requirements for the election of councillors. Okay, this came up as a result of a letter dated 15th of March 23, sent by the Mayor and by the then acting CEO to the Attorney General proposing changes. So it appears that the council does have some influence on legislation. One of the reasons given not to accept his deputation was that the council can't change legislation. What sort of answer is that? Council has made proposals to change legislation and ratepayers want to dispute this. I understand there's a petition that's been signed by over 900 ratepayers protesting against the changes. Don't tell me that ratepayers can't protest. That includes Mark Nielsen. Other arguments that he can't be heard is that he's taking the council to court are irrelevant. His action against council has nothing to do with his deputation. All other arguments relate purely to the council being afraid of criticism. This is not good enough. I'd like to call for a vote from councillors. Thanks.
Do we have a seconder? In the absence of a seconder, the motion lapses. We now move into the reports of committees. Item 8.1. So those of you who are following along, we are up to page 22. And this is the minutes of the meeting of the Chief Executive Officer Performance Management Committee of the meeting of the 10th of August. Councillor Dew.
I'm happy to move as written.
Thank you. And Councillor Greaves.
Thank you. Happy to second.
Any questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 8.2. This is the Southern Region Waste Resource Authority. It's the information from the board meeting of the 21st of August. Councillor Eaton.
Yes, I'll move as written.
Thank you very much. Councillor Themeliotis. You disappeared. Thank you. Councillor Pritchard. Would you like to second that?
I'd like to second that.
Would you like to speak to us?
Just very quickly.
Your 4 minutes now.
Yeah, I've got to be quickly on the button. Sorry.
The time starts now. You're using it up. Off you go.
Just to raise just a couple of points from the Swire meeting that was held. Most importantly was the Les Perry Memorial Grant Program, which is run by Swire, which is up to $10,000 provided by Swire towards primary schools in the 3 constituent council areas. This was named after Les Perry, who was the executive officer of Swire from 1999 to 2007. This year there was 15 grant applications, and happy to say that 11 of those grant applications came from the city of Onkaparinga. Only 4 of them came from the city of Marion, and the city of Holdfast Bay didn't have any. This is up by 1 from last year. So all of those have been funded. Just very quickly, from City of Onkaparinga, Cardine College, Christie's Beach Primary School, Clarendon Primary School, Huntfield Heights, Crownvale Primary School, Reynella East College, Seaford Rise Primary School, Southern Montessori Middle School, Town Primary School, Wollonga Primary School, and Woodcroft Primary School all have their applications funded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Wilkes?
I just wanted to say thank you, Councillor Pritchard, for the update. I love your updates on the Swara meetings that you go to, and I look forward to seeing that elected member who's, sorry, not the elected member, but the new person who's going to be the independent member who's going to be joining your panel later on in the meeting.
In the agenda. Thank you. Any further questions, comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried. The next report from officers. We're now moving into section 9 of the agenda. So page 31, if you're following on, and we have Councillor Themeliotis.
Yes, I'm happy to move debate briefly.
Okay, your time starts now.
Thank you. Just to make a couple of points, Gymnastics are making a long-term commitment to our area. They've advocated hard for this $5 million to upgrade our centre. This is also the home to the over 50s club, which they share. The centre or facility was underutilised until Hub Gymnastics moved in there. So it's great to see that this is going to be a well-utilised facility. It's going to be upgraded soon, and the long-term lease really establishes this club in our area. I'll remind everyone, this is the biggest club in our community, 750 members. There's over 300 people on a wait list, 90% female participation in this sport. So I hope you can support the long-term lease for Hub Gymnastics.
Thank you. Councillor Eaton.
Yes, I'll second it. I've got nothing to say.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Pritchard, a question or debate?
Quick debate.
Okay, your time starts now.
Just to let the elected members know that the Prudential report came to the Audit and Risk Committee, which was held last week, and went through the Audit and Risk Committee without any problems.
Thank you. Thanks for that extra advice. Any further speakers? Any further debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. And please extend, I'm sure that Councillor Themeliotis and Councillor Eaton will let that community know. The next item is item 9.2, the Witton Bluff Base Trail update next step. I just want to also call for any conflict of interest that there may be. Councillor Platten, are you? Go.
Hello, I would like to call a general conflict of interest.
And
I'll be staying in the chamber and I'll be debating.
And voting.
And voting, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilkes, is that a conflict of interest?
No, that's a move.
I'm moving button fast. Okay. Councillor Wilkes, you're moving the motion. Do you wish to debate?
Yes, please. I'd love to debate.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Of course. I'd like to move 1 and 2B.
1 and 2B.
Which is notes the background and update, including within the agenda, included within the agenda report, and approves that that on the basis of the state government offers provide an additional. Yeah, thank you.
So just checking that all the members can see that what's being moved. Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Wilkes.
Excellent. Sure. Can I start?
Yes, your time starts now.
So in it's short. It's not going to be short, but just to sum it up, I think we should get behind this project sorry, I'm really quite nervous, that provides an inclusive, iconic, invigorating walkway to our Onkaparinga community. So I find it's going to be really hard in my 4 minutes to try and summarise how important this is to our community. I'm nervous, but I'm going to go through the processes, the considerations and the why our community needs it. So
The process has been a long one. It has been a long, overdrawn, well thought out, well documented, hugely publicised walkway that is vital and very important to our community. We have MPs who want it. We have the local members here, hopefully, that want it. We have campaigns that have been run off it, and we have a Section 23 that has been complete. So most importantly, it is my community that wants it. I speak to people every day and I see how much people want to see this walking trail built. And it is not just because it's going to link Port Noarlunga and Christie's Beach, but it's because it's going to be an inclusive path that allows access for all of our community. It's disability approved, it's 3 metres wide, and it is extremely important to see it get done at this time now, because if we don't and we delay it further, we've already seen what 18 months can do to this project. So if we do not do it now, which our community is asking us for, we have the money there, then we will inevitably be back in the situation, having the same debate over the same principle, but it will be costing more. So I can understand that there's been a lot of advocacy around this, especially in the First Nations space, and I've been talking to a lot of people, but the facts that I'm looking at and we're seeing is that the Section 23 has been passed, it has been approved, it has been given the tick. Okay, we've got plans, we've got geology reports, and the bluff building the trail itself will actually strengthen the cliff face. So that's like a win-win. The community pressure is not going to go away, not in my lifetime, I do not believe. I've collated the information from the report tonight, but also from all of the other information that we see, and it's about an 80 to 85% support basis. Okay, so the state government themselves have what's called the Coast Park, and the Coast Park is a review of our whole South Australian coast. Now, there's 3 nodes that were identified as being important to our South Australian coast. That was Semaphore, Glenelg, and Christie's Beach, and I'll fit Port Noarlunga in there. And Glenelg in its own right is doing fantastic. Semaphore has got a street in its name for itself, and the last one on that list is Christie's Beach or Port Noarlunga. So this project, if we support it, is going to put Christie's and Port Noarlunga on the map. It's going to give our community somewhere to go, somewhere to be proud of, and somewhere to get that sea air in their face. So I'd love to see you guys support it, but I am looking forward to hearing everybody's opinions on it tonight, and I hope we can have a really healthy debate. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Greaves, seconding debate.
Thank you, and yes, I will.
Both seconding and debate.
I'm seconding and debating.
Okay, I forgot.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor Weir. Members, last Tuesday I had the joy of spending the entire day with my 2-year-old granddaughter, and one of our visits for the day was Port Noarlunga. Bought an ice cream and sat under the jetty, but we couldn't go any further, could we? What the great thing about seeing this project through is, I think, the opportunity to create a legacy, but also to create an iconic piece of infrastructure for our communities, for the potential tourism to come to the area. And, I'm very grateful that in this chamber we hopefully have the support for that. Saying that, I would also like to acknowledge previous chambers, and there's a couple of elected members in our gallery tonight who I know are very passionate and have advocated long and hard to see this project completed. Councillor Wilkes is right. This has been on the cards for a long time. And as far as community engagement, community consultation, all of the Prudential reports, state government involvement, I think this council has certainly gone over and above to try and ensure that all of the right boxes were ticked and that all of the correct processes were adhered to. And so we're now back here to make a final decision, I hope tonight, to actually see this project move forward. And for us to actually be able to deliver for our community and for all of those individuals who have put their hand up to say that they are supporting the process and supporting the project, for us to finally be able to say, we're going ahead. everything's in place. We now have the opportunity to create a little bit of legacy, not only for this chamber, but on behalf of those previous chambers who have, I guess, fought hard to get to this point now. So members, I'd encourage you all to support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greaves. Councillor Bell, question or debate?
A debate, thank you.
Okay,
Very briefly, I just want to pay tribute to all the stakeholders who have taken part into reaching this at this point of looking like we're going to hopefully upgrade that coastline. I support the motion, obviously, and I just want to quote a little bit from the background that clearly I agree with in highlighting that this project has key beneficial outcomes. If we go ahead, it provides access to quality public open spaces, showcases our absolutely wonderful and beautiful coastline, the geology and the heritage. It really does deliver a wonderful environmental and cultural heritage and delivers a project with a high quality value and priority. So that's all I really want to say. I think well done to the council for all the work that they've done.
thank you, Councillor. Councillor Yeomans, you question or debate?
Just got some questions to start off.
Yep, okay.
On page 85 of the report, it notes that one of the key benefit outcomes of the project is that it will deliver an estimated benefit to the local economy through construction, 3.8 million, and an additional visitor spend of 4.66 million per annum. I couldn't see any details in the report, but I was wondering what sort of visitor spending you anticipate from the construction of this project. So in other words, where's the
data for that?
4.66, yeah, there was no report attached, and I'm just wondering how that figure's been concluded.
Thank you. Just checking which officer is going to take that question.
Sorry, through the chair.
Do you just want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Rob Barrow, the project leader on the project. We did provide some information previously to elected members, and unfortunately didn't include it as part of this report. There was an analysis where all that data came from. So it's a combination of spend map data and data through Bureau of Statistics input output multipliers, so which works out jobs, but impact on jobs in the local economy. So I don't have that information in front of me, but we have provided that. And it's also on the public website as well. Does that help? Sorry.
So you said it was in this report?
Not in this report, but it was provided following when we did the elected member briefing.
Okay.
That was raised through that process, and we subsequently.
It's just a lot of money for us. Just wondering how you can come to that figure. Got a couple more questions?
Sure, go ahead.
On page 8 of the report, there's an explanation that future works in the seawalls are required regardless of the project. The report further notes that while these adaptations are not required immediately, the design of the future final solution has been progressed to ensure that the base project supports future adaptations. To that end, has council engaged with the consultants and the project team who've been working on the coastal adaptation study? The actual consultants doing that?
Through the mayor, so we have I guess a council staff team that are supporting this project, and also some of those staff are also involved in the coastal adaptation study work. So we've had specialist consultants undertaking very detailed, more so detailed than the coastal adaptation work specific to Witton Bluff Base Trail, and the engineer work that has been undertaken as part of that has been fed into the coastal adaptation work. And then likewise, we've considered and looked at the coastal adaptation work, and particularly for this cell, and fed that back into this. So the staff involved in both have been in the room talking to both sets of consultants about the respective projects.
Okay, and thank you. What timeframe would the remediation work to the seawalls be required to be completed if this project wasn't progressed?
Through the mayor, so there's some work that needs to be undertaken in the short term, so relatively immediate. There are some areas that are some of the rock revetment are failing, and we've got mapping and coastal data that tells us that we need to get in and undertake some of those works. Beyond that, it becomes more of a monitoring process into the medium and long term, whereby we continue to do some of that mapping exercise and use data-based information to inform times of intervention and the level of expense that we incur in upgrading that seawall. So some is immediate, some will be medium term, and some will be based on our coastal adaptation planning around sea level rise, storm surge, and those sorts of things into the longer term.
And that was that $900,000 odd.
The $900,000 is what we are earmarking as a part of the Witton Bluff Base Trail project for seawall repair works and modifications. So there's a benefit through this project to the seawall and mitigation work.
It's got two more if I can. Regarding the $1.4 million additional cost referred to in the report, is that predominantly due to rising costs in materials, or is that also taken into account the recommendations from the coastal adaptation project relating to sea level rises and the like?
Yeah. Through the mayor, it is cost escalation over the period of delay. So the design is always expected to be trying to mitigate and address climate change and coastal adaptation work. Some of this work, however, precedes some of the coastal adaptation work, and that's hence that it is informing that work in part as well. So it is predominantly linked to escalation in costs, materials, labour and the like.
Okay, and just one last, and this is probably more of a policy thing. In relation to the updated Prudential report that we've received today, considering we're using that information as part of our decision making, are we able to put that information we received today in the public domain?
Yeah. Through the mayor, the information has already been made public on the council website, so that it's available for people to see there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Themeliotis, question or debate?
Two questions. First question, noting that time has increased cost. If successful tonight, when do we start?
Through the mayor, our next step timeframes, if I recall, was anticipating a February commencement, subject to achieving the additional works that we need to. So we need the next steps under Section 8 of the report details our remobilisation, completion of design, finalising approvals, which are of course important for checks and balances around that. We then complete our design and costs, and we're anticipating February start date.
That's actually just opened up another question. From now until February, then we wouldn't see any increased costs.
They've been factored into our cost estimate revisions.
My second question, the ongoing costs are quite significant. Would we be looking at external funding, or would this form part of our advocacy plan to seek funding for those ongoing costs rather than having it the ratepayers?
Through the mayor, those costs will predominantly be borne by council in maintenance functions and the like. However, there'll be opportunities at more significant renewal, things like replacement of stone wall areas or other more serious infrastructure that we would seek grant funding towards significant upgrade.
And I'd add that, the advocacy agenda is something for the chamber, so you may want to bring that to others' attention. Councillor Yeomans, another question or debate?
I'll just have a debate if I can just say a couple of things.
Off you go.
I just got a contrary view. There's been numerous reports written about this subject. The current report notes on page 80 that the council's total funding contribution to this project is $3.35 million. That's $3.35 million that goes towards the construction of the project and does not consider costs associated with depreciation, recurrent costs and finance costs. In other words, that's just the total cost associated with the whole of the life asset, not just building it. A full Prudential report was presented to council on the 17th of November 2020, where the whole of life costs was detailed at just over $16 million. Today, staff have kindly provided an update to this report where the whole of life cost has been reduced to just over $12 million, which is a positive. I thank staff for putting this together at such short notice. Either way we look at it, this is still a lot of money for a walkway, no matter how fantastic this would be, particularly when you consider our current debt levels. I'm also concerned as to the impact this project will have on our capacity to borrow money for other projects. I think it's also important to note that council's current financial position, together with the state of the economy since the COVID is also a lot different now than what it was in 2019 when council approved the council's Coast Park plan. It's also worth noting that this project is part of the state government's 70-kilometre Coast Park vision, as alluded to by Councillor Wilkes before, with matching funding provided by local government. The city of Onkaparinga's 31-kilometre coastline makes up almost half of this vision, and the funding from the state government only contributes to the construction, leaving the ratepayers of this council to not only contribute to half of the cost of construction across this 31-kilometre coastline, but 100% of the operational costs and other costs associated with the life of the project along our coastline. The state government would see this project as benefiting the state economy, not just the ratepayers of our council, although it is the ratepayers of this council significantly contributing to this. Further to financial contribution, council is also required to direct resources to plan, design and deliver priority projects that received external funding following state and federal election commitments. It wasn't lost on me the large number of local projects that are being deferred. These are listed in the carry forward projects and capital works report attached to the quarterly financial report tabled here tonight. In relation to Witton Bluff, there is a path that's 3 metre wide in some places that connects Christie's Beach and Port Noarlunga along the Esplanade. This takes in spectacular views. There's also a base trail that traverses from Christie's Beach towards Port Noarlunga between the cliffs and the beach. I walked these paths the other day, and although it's fair to say these paths cannot be accessed by the whole community, one does have to consider the merit of constructing and incurring ongoing costs for another walkway between these two places, particularly when this will be borrowed money. I do ask myself the question as to whether or not our ratepayers would consider to be high priorities within the council area to spend $3.35 million than another walking trail along the beach to complement the existing paths. I accept council has already invested money into this project, but I'm not an advocate of putting good money after bad. With our current debt levels, we're considering selling off assets just to pay off debt and our ongoing challenge to balance our annual budget. I think we need to start to prioritise what we deliver to our community on a need to have as opposed to a nice to have basis. This goes for some of the value added services we're providing together with projects we're delivering. We must consider what would be important to the majority of our ratepayers. I'm committed to doing the best I can to help realign the council's financial position and bring a balanced and considered approach to services and projects we should be delivering to the community. We've just increased rates by CPI, and in that environment, with ratepayers demanding value for money, I consider this project a nice to have project, and I consider the better ways to use our resources and spend nearly $3.5 million of borrowed money. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Yeomans. Councillor Dew, question or debate?
I'm not going to debate, thank you.
Time starts now.
I wanted to first acknowledge the work of staff and also the state in terms of seeking the extra $700,000 and the state government coming to the party with that. I also understand exactly what Councillor Yeomans has raised in relation to the financial long-term implications for council. I think it would be remiss not to also talk about the Aboriginal and Ghana components. I understand there's been a section 23. I've read the report and I've seen that council conducted due diligence and found that there were no sites. Auntie Buster and Auntie Georgina were actually here, were two prominent elders in the southern region who would often be people that would be consulted in projects like this and others at scale across the city. They objected to this project. A section 23 was undertaken that considers the central archives. To me, as a non-Aboriginal person though, I must say that it's a very Western concept when Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture predominantly is an oral tradition that we would rely on Western methodologies such as, written documentation. I understand that government needs an instrument. However, I really guess that we need to consider more culturally appropriate ways to obtain the information required to make good decisions. Partly that sits with the state, but also our due diligence in terms of our approaches and thinking about how we can be more inclusive to gather that information. I've noticed with a few projects that there's information, there's questions that I have related to projects that I might not receive the answers to because my assumption is that the original scope of the project doesn't allow for that exploration, which I haven't felt
absolutely comfortable that we've considered all the environmental factors with this project. In essence, I think that, yes, it would be a great place to go and see and and enjoy, but there's a lot of other factors that I'm quite concerned about. So that's the financial long-term implications, the Ghana perspectives from our local Ghana people, and then also the environmental protection factors going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stafford, a question or debate?
Just two questions real quick. Could we get a bit of commentary about the Witton Bluff project, its effect on cliff erosion?
Take that one.
Through the mayor, so the trail project that we're proposing will include improvements and repair to the existing rock revetment wall that is at the toe of the cliff. So it will serve to protect it from inundation with water, storm surge and the like. So that effectively provides some mitigation against the risk of erosion against the cliff. The trail itself will also provide a dedicated and focused area for people to traverse between Christie's Beach and Port Noarlunga. So that dedicated trail will stop people from travelling into areas of that cliff face or the limestone shelves that are both unsafe and also areas we prefer to keep people out of from a cliff stability point of view as well. So it provides that formal direction to people to travel rather than haphazardly moving through that space and causing other environmental damage and erosion as well. So I think the only other comment I'd make is that we've ensured that the design of it is trying to have as limited impact environmentally as it possibly can. And that stood up to a test of the scrutiny of the Coastal Protection Board, who under the former Environment Minister Spears undertook a formal ministerial review of the project and found that the impact would not be detrimental environmentally to the area.
Okay, and a second question?
Just a question on a theoretical sort of. If the project was not pursued today, and then at a later time, the Witton Bluff project came up again, beyond changes to material costs, what sort of costs would we expect from going through the process again? Yeah, through the chair. So we'd need to probably revisit the design itself as well. So there'd be costs for additional design, potentially some technical investigations, which there's a significant body of work that's been undertaken that would still be relevant, but we need to probably update some of that. There'd be additional engagement processes and work with stakeholders. But predominantly it would be about cost of materials and cost of labour would be the greatest financial impediment. That's all.
Councillor Roulette, question or debate?
Debates.
Okay, if you please stand, your time starts now. Thank you.
Right, I'd like to say that I'm in support of the Witton Bluff happening. I would like to acknowledge the work of council, so acknowledge the comments of Paul Yeomans. He's given a lot of thought to this. To me, I think I was a lot younger, under 16, I was state chess champion. I went on to play the adult tournaments and 2-week tournaments, and you end up playing for 5 hours and get a draw and stalemates. And this has been stalemate for too long. This project is part of a greater plan, which is the whole coast. And I see in future years that people will be walking in this trail as they're walking in the Heiston Trail at the moment. They'll be doing it in stages and they'll be bringing business to this particular area. So I believe if the state government is honest, they could have been a bit more generous, mind you. If they're honest to what they're about, then they will be giving more money to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor-elect. Councillor Platten.
Thank you.
A question or debate?
Just a very short debate.
The time starts now.
So, councillors, this topic is something that I have meaningfully avoided for about 11 months. And I remember back to an election, and I certainly, whenever it was brought up to me, refer back to the fact that it had already been voted on by the previous chamber and it had already passed, and therefore it was a project that was already going to happen. This particular decision tonight in front of us is a decision not unlike Waring Street, in that that's a decision that was already made by the previous chamber, and we were updating the financials of it because it had taken so long to come to fruition. This project has taken an extra 18 months to come to fruition. In that time, it has accrued another $1.4 million worth of cost. And tonight we're left with a decision of whether we fund the half of that, which is $700,000. Our community is very supportive of this. In my particular area, I would say I've done a bit of a poll over the last few weeks. 7 out of 10 residents are supportive. The 3 that are not supportive, it boils down to 2 reasons. One, and the majority of that is financial. And the second is the concern around environmental impact. So before you tonight, I guess my want is to move on, get the project done. Do I think that it'll bring enormous amounts of people to the area? I genuinely do. I think that owning a business in the area and declaring a conflict is because I genuinely think it'll bring people. It'll be, a former councillor would refer to as placemaking. It'll bring people to our place. They'll be able to go between Port Noarlunga and Christie's Beach. And Christie's Beach needs a lift. It needs all the people it can get. And it's moving into a time where we have so much happening at Christie's Beach. So from my perspective, yes, it's going to cost more money. We've been able to delay a few other projects to find that money. And I had a really good conversation with Fu around how that happened. And I thank him for that. So councillors, I understand the financial impacts. But as a ward councillor for the area, I can't sit here and say that this isn't a good idea. So thank you very much, and I hope that you support the project.
Thank you. There's no further questions. I'm wondering if Councillor Wilkes, do you wish to close debate? Off you go. You'll need to put your microphone on, please. Thank you.
No, okay. No, thank you everyone for that strong debate. Paul, I can understand your comments and concerns. Councillor Greaves, I really love, well, first actually, Councillor Dew, I think it's some great points that you've made there, and taking into consideration that oral language of Ghana, I'd love to see moving forward us document that better and have a better understanding and appreciation for that beautiful, the beautiful culture. Councillor Greaves, I love that word legacy. This is infrastructure that will support people in our community for so long. We have the privilege here to debate how we're going to leave our legacy as councillors, what projects we fund, what services we provide, what offers to the community we're going to give them for the rates, monies that they pay. We have what some would consider quite a large pot of money, but for many, and you should all know that this shrinks very quickly once we start divvying it up. So dividing this money is not a decision that I take lightly, or either this chamber takes lightly. It brings me to ponder, can we have our cake and eat it too at Onkaparinga? Can we do that? And what does this mean? Can we have great facilities and amenities for our public? Can we sustain building these projects and not have to increase rates like the long-term financial plan instruction booklet that was left to us by the previous chamber? Can we use the public money, the ratepayers' money of Onkaparinga, to build strong, vibrant communities as outlined in our community plan, and not continue to have this supported by 91% of ratepayers' funds or state government handouts? Can we build an organisation that the community is proud of? Can we stand here and say that this organisation is working with the best intentions to prove all these long-standing discretions that tarnished our reputation in the past that have been documented? And Chamber, I believe we can. I believe we're doing it. We're doing it differently right now. And I believe we're on a different path. I know we can, over time, change the views of the community that has been well documented and left behind us. We care about how we spend our money. We really do. And we care about Ghana consultation, and we should be doing it the right way the first time. We pull apart every motion that comes to this chamber and we find the nuts and bolts of it. We have debated and discussed every point tonight about this, and we have done at every meeting for every motion that's come here for the last 10 months. This is a credit to us as a chamber, I believe. We've explored all options for this project, and I personally would like to acknowledge that I feel it difficult to comprise the 20 years of history of this project into this 4-minute speech or 10 months of council, but I can assure you I've given it a red hot crack. I've done what I do best and talked to everyone who wanted to chat about the bluff. I've asked questions and I've explored as much as I can of the previous council's work, and I can't go past not saying thank you to Bill, who's here, who's pushed this from its inception. But most importantly, I've spoken to our community. I've engaged with them on several levels and I've found out what they want. There's no doubt that my constituents want this project. Many feel they need it, and I know a few sit on the fence. I've even heard a couple that oppose it. But generally, from the figures in the report that we see here, from the people that I speak to, it's an 80 to 85% support. And this process is the tail end funding of the arrangement that it succeed a project that's long overdue, not only for my ward, but for the Onkaparinga community. We all know I love Beach Road. I love Christie's Beach, and the lack of attention it's had over the years is quite disheartening. But I've said it once and I'll say it again. Every person knows Beach Road. Everyone knows the potential it has, and everybody talks about it. Well, now it's time to put Noarlunga and Christie's Beach on the map with a showstopper. There's not many people out there who don't love the wind in the air and the sea in their face, and this is what brings it. So let's get behind this project and provide an inclusive, iconic, invigorating walkway to our Onkaparinga community. And as a local Lachlan Edwards said, let's get this done.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkes. I will put the motion. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. We've had a division called. So those who are in favour, if you would like to stand. Councillor Themeliotis. So Councillor Themeliotis, Bell. What is that man's name? Platten. I'm teasing. Councillor Greaves, Councillor Roulette, Councillor Eaton, Pritchard, Wilkes and Stafford. Thank you. And those against, if you would like to stand, Councillor Yeomans and Councillor, what is her name? Councillor Lauren Dew. Thank you, everyone. Councillor Wilkes, if you wouldn't mind turning off your microphone. Thank you. So now I just want to announce that that motion is carried as it appears on, and I'm just noticing too, for those of you who can see the screen, these minutes are not confidential. That's inaccurate, but we'll sort that out as we go along. You're missing an R for Councillor Greaves too. I think our team up at the top here doing an incredible job. Sorry about that. We are now up to item 9.3, Byards Road. Councillor Wilkes.
Yes, can I please move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as written?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, I do.
For debate now, yes?
Yes, please.
Okay, off you go.
So, just getting my notes ready, just resetting. I have to acknowledge Deputy Fisher, who's not here to move his motion that he wrote so passionately for a toilet that is so wanted by the community. I have to acknowledge also Gary, who has come and done several deputations and worked very hard to show the community how important, the chamber, how important this toilet is to the community. He's highlighted the well-being that it's going to bring to the area, not just his group, how it's critical for the local community and the value it would offer. There's also a park run that runs through there every Saturday. They have over, I think it's 160 runners, but that varies depending. Now coming into summer, I'm sure that's up because everyone's getting fit. So definitely wanted by the community. There's an MP, Nat Cook MP, who has put the money for this toilet and its installation. So the installation is at no cost to council, which is a plus. Deputy Fisher would love me to highlight the bats that are in there and also the various other amount of wildlife that we see in these wetlands. And I just wanted to read straight from the report because I thought this was fantastic use of sort of councils, put it right at the front, that the original investment in the area, this is about the wetlands, so page 113 for people who are following with the agenda, page 113, the original investment in the area was through a previous project and it was called Waterproofing the South. That's what the wetlands were created. This site, while it's undertaken its original attempt, has also become an important high-profile wetland that provides a home for native wildlife, including birds, frogs, and reptiles, which in turn provides recreational and educational opportunities. As a result of the increased ecological growth of the area and increased interest in the wetland, supporting infrastructure such as timber viewing platforms and walkways have been installed. So there's already infrastructure being installed at this area because it is in such high demand from our community. So I'd love to see this supported by the chamber. Thank you.
Councillor Themeliotis, seconding.
Ask a question first. Yeah, question around the toilet being lockable. So will the toilet be lockable and certain hours open and close? Can I get that confirmed?
Just introduce this opportunity.
Through you, Mayor, Sills Cortez, team leader for new assets. Councillor Themeliotis, yes, that is the case.
Can I just get the hours? Like, what does that equate to?
That's a good question. We can't actually vary the hours.
Okay. All right, I'll trust you on that.
So for things like seasonal changes, summer, winter, that kind of thing. Okay.
Okay, look, I'm gonna second this only because I actually did a lot of work with Mick in the background on this, and I've spoken to Gary on this. So I'll just speak really, really briefly on this, just to say that, look, I'm happy that it's come within budget, but if you do look at the costings isn't actually for the toilet, it's for the plumbing and all that additional stuff with it. And if this is the mark of what toilets cost, then that's something for the chamber to consider. I'm also mindful that we do have, I'm going to call it the toilet strategy, but we have a strategy of where our toilets go and there's a reason why they go there. And I'm also mindful that I shouldn't be debating toilets, but debating that this is a brand new asset bringing it onto our books, which is another cost to us. So the debate should always be around the asset and not, I use a toilet or I'm going to use a toilet. So I am a bit concerned in that respect, but it has come within budget. There was an election commitment. I am going to jump on and mention the advocacy plan again, because what it's highlighted, this project has highlighted to me, is that our advocacy plan needs to be a live document. And I would hope and elected members, the mayor, staff probably have to start meeting quarterly with state and federal members, just gauging from them, even if it's confidential meetings, so be it, but gauging from them what those projects are, so we don't get these surprises come election time, that we're sort of knowing what's on the books. So yes, advocacy plan, let's push it hard now, let's make it live, elected members get involved, talk to your state and federal members, get the mayor involved as well, have those meetings and feedback to staff those projects you're hearing, so we don't get surprises and the chamber's more comfortable with where we're going.
Thank you very much. Councillor Greaves, question or debate?
A couple of questions to start with. And Councillor Themeliotis has touched on it. So in the report, it's mentioned that some of the security features, particularly for toilets that are in areas that are not well observed, is a automatic locking of toilets. Is that proposed for this toilet?
Through you, Mayor. I don't actually have those details as far as this part of it. So what we've brought back to the chamber today is obviously the costings for the construction, the detail that as far as scoping in the final design, plus after community consultation, all those issues we can identify and actually enact at that time.
Okay, thank you. So specifically, I guess what I'm looking for, and it's in response to a couple of the comments in the report about security and vandalism and that sort of thing. Are we able to actually incorporate within that $250,000 range an automatic locking system and CCTV for this particular toilet?
Through you, Mayor. We can sort of look at the lockable aspects. The CCTV wasn't part of the scope of this.
But if that's something that's part of the consideration going forward, we can certainly look at that.
Do we have an indication of the cost of automatic locking?
Not at this time.
Okay. Mayor, I might actually like to move an amendment. And that is 1 through 5. But that also an automatic locking system be incorporated into the design and be funded through this process.
Within the yeah. I'll just check that we're getting that. Automatic locking facility system is included within the scope of the project. Is that it? Do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you.
Off you go.
Look, members, I'm not going to die in a ditch over this toilet. It is obviously it's been brought to the chamber before, and it wasn't anticipated within our open space strategic management plan, given the passive nature of the Byards Road Wetlands. However, I guess through this process, we have seen a significant increase in the number of people using it, and certainly there are increasing organised activities actually happening in this area. So in that respect, I'm happy to support it. One of the things that I was quite concerned about through reading the report is the issues of particularly around vandalism in areas that are not, I guess, clearly visible to the public. And I think certainly this site may have an increased potential for vandalism. So I think as a measure to try and combat that, if we can actually incorporate automatic locking, and I understand it can actually be adjusted based on daylight savings time and all those sorts of things. But I think that as an added feature for a toilet that is in a fairly low visibility area, I think will save council a lot in the long run, particularly given the instances of vandalism that we've certainly seen outlined in the report tonight. So members, it's a small amendment, but I certainly think that will give me more confidence that we're putting in an asset that is going to be used properly and for the right purposes.
Thank you. Councillor Eaton, are you seconding or got a question?
No, I will certainly second that. And I do have questions.
Questions first.
Questions first.
Thank you.
Exactly where are we going to put it? Are we going to put it next to the footpath in that little vacant area, or are we going to put it towards the wetlands?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Eaton, you're correct. As you're aware, it's a fairly small car park there. We were looking at placing the toilet in the most visible location, so that little piece of ground, if you like, between the entrance and the exit to the car park is the proposed where the footpath is.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly, I support this amendment because it adds that extra security to it. I do have concerns about toilets in remote areas, and having policed that over the years and actually been the bait, I'm aware of deviant behaviour that can occur in those locations too. But what we do have here is that potential for vandalism. I know that the Friends group have, I've heard it mentioned that they've had plants pulled out and things like that, and you've got an area where a lot of school kids come through. So I think by putting it in that location that you're referring to will help to reduce that potential. The locking mechanism is a big bonus, and it's important that that has it. So reluctantly, I'm supporting it. And I think that we need to go ahead and just do it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkes, question or amendment? Question to this amendment?
Yes.
Or debate? Question.
I can't debate, can I? Because
not yet. No, you cannot.
Doesn't think so. I only got questions.
Ask a question.
I was just trying to build my knowledge.
Off you go. No,
so, thank you. So, is it standard for Onkaparinga toilets to have the locking mechanism?
Through the Mayor, no, it isn't, Councillor Wilkes.
Okay. Have council retrofitted locking mechanisms to existing toilets?
Through the Mayor, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, not like the one on beat. Anyway, okay, all right. How many toilets? I know this is, you might not be able to answer it, but how many toilets sort of in Onkaparinga have this feature? The locking feature, the automatic lock?
Through the Mayor, I can't provide you with those numbers at this time.
Okay, what about the cost to? Sorry, I can.
That's all right. Do you have another question?
Yes, what would you be aware of the cost for this automatic locking system?
Through the mayor, as I said earlier, we don't know those costs at this stage.
Okay.
But it's certainly something we can look into.
Because, okay, so that brings me to my last question. We have in the cost plan for the toilet, which is page 125 of the agenda, we have a design development contingency of 5%, which is $10,000. And then we have a construction contingency of 5%, which is $10,000. And then we also have an additional, as you can see in point 4, well, the toilet is 236,000. We have an offered 250,000 from the MP Matt Cook. This brings me to my question, would this locking system be achievable with the contingencies of $20,000 plus the extra 14,000?
Through the mayor, Councillor Wilkes, as part of the brief, is putting together this design at this point in time because we hadn't considered a locking mechanism. It's hard to say without looking into it as to whether we can meet it within the current contingencies.
A beautiful challenge.
Beautiful challenge. I love it.
Councillor Bell, a question for this item, or do you wish to?
Question to start with,
Yes.
just in line with the point 6 that's been added, I suppose. And that is that when you say in there the scope of the project, is that something we're going to consider when you look at the whole project or review it all, and then it would have to come back to the chamber if, for example, it blows over the current budget?
It's within budget.
It's the scope of the project, it says there, so I'm just wondering whether that's in referring or suggesting that we just look at it, or it's definitely in it.
Well, through the mayor, I would suggest that if the cost came back that it was over the budget, yes, it would definitely need to come back to the chamber.
Okay.
The proposition, as I understand it, Councillor Bell, that we've got before us with the amendment is that this is all contained within the existing budget. So that's the proposition is before you as elected councillors at this time. Okay. So that is the challenge for staff to be able to meet, if this amendment gets passed, to be able to include it within the scope of the budget.
All right.
Because there's no.
So can I just say a little bit of a debate now as well? Just to highlight that, you all know I'm a registered nurse, something for public, somewhere that the public can practice public personal hygiene is obviously very important. Toilets are an essential public service, and at a minimum they provide a space for physical, mental health and hygiene. Elimination, obviously, of bodily waste, administering essential medications like insulin, for example, manage menstruation, care for young people, support others to use facilities, find a quiet place to rest, breastfeed infants, accessing drinking water, in particular, washing hands and personal hygiene. So I very much support an increase in amenities such as these within our city. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Willett.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go ahead with the debate.
Go ahead.
Yep. I'd just like to acknowledge Gary Goland. He's put a lot of work into the Friends of Byards Wetland. If you're ever on Facebook, just check it out. Got some fantastic pictures of birds. My daughter sat on me many times going through What Bird Has Sat book, and I can tell you that there is a huge variety of birds in that park. Check out the Facebook Friends of Byards Wetland. Had a chance also to my meeting with the CEO was quite fortunately in nice weather and at Byards Road Wetlands. And so during that time, a large flock of yellow-tailed black cockatoos rolled up and many other birds, and it was a really pleasant day. A full car park. I've seen that car park overflowing recently. It's much more congenial atmosphere in spring weather. Okay, it's been within budget. I think it's a great idea of being lockable, but I'd question also when does the vandalism happen? Normally, would it be they're given there are school kids going through there? Does it happen after dark? School kids won't be going through there after dark, but I'd support your amendment, Heidi. Okay, we're looking. Just the other thing is it's clearly visible from the road. If that being the main road, Byards Road, there are many cars going along there. You can't have greater visibility than that. And I'm hoping that the water chamber will not be coming back to the council chamber after tonight.
Thank you for that extra little bit of levity. And I think we've got some input also from one of our officers. Kirk, did you want to add something?
Yeah, through the mayor, just in response to contingency and also the gap there of the 14,000 that would easily cover locking doors and potentially CCTV. Just gone back through some historic.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate the speed in which you're able to support our elected members in coming to a decision. Councillor Platten.
Thank you. A debate, if I can.
Yes, you can.
Thank you to Director Richardson, took the real punch out of my debate. But I think the Chamber knows that I'm all for public amenities. While everything we make decisions on in this chamber come with an element of risk of vandalism. We are the local council, and all of our projects essentially are outside, and they do come with a measure of risk, which the council has to deal with. There is a public need at this particular area. It's become quite a popular wetland. It's been outlined to us in a previous council meeting that public toilets here would be desirable. And I can see through the bus tour that we had a couple of weeks ago and being there personally myself, that public toilets in this area would make it a much more popular place to visit. So it has my full support, and I certainly support the notion of putting an automatic locking system in place. I think in my experience, vandalism tends to happen when less people are looking, and so that's generally at night time. So yeah, I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no further questions, I put the motion. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, apologies. I'm putting them, I'm putting the amendment, as you can see on the screen, and welcoming the member for Hurdle Vale. Perfect timing. So we've got the amendment in front of us that so Councillor Greaves, does Councillor Greaves get to speak to this? No, we're just putting the amendment. So all those in favour of the amendment, so it's passed. This now is the motion. Is that correct? And now Councillor Wilkes can close. Thank you very much. And I will let you speak in a voice that can be heard.
Excellent. Thank you, Chamber, for the healthy debate on this topic. As I said in my opening, I'd like to close definitely with the community interest that this warrants. I'd like to say the Friends of Byards Road again. Gary, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention and being such a strong advocate in this space for a toilet, and also the member for Huntfield Heights for providing the funding. There's so many reasons why the community want this toilet. And I just wanted to highlight also that it meets a national level of compliance as highlighted in page 11 of the report. The specific design requirements for the toilet have been established through the National Construction Code, the Disability Discrimination Act and the Australian standards. These compliance determine construction outcomes and provide design requirements for building works to enable access for people with disabilities. So that's just another plus for this project. And the fantastic inclusive work that we're doing at Onkaparinga. I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of the council to source the above specified design requirements and other site-specific requirements. Kirk, Director Richardson, thank you for acknowledging that the amendment there, the automatic locking system should be able to fit into the scope of work and the money provided. So I think the highlight in the report for the need of a traditional build being the concrete block work for the vandalised resistant toilet will also be fantastic. I just really hope that we can support this toilet and it will be great for our community.
Thank you very much, councillor, and I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Off we go. Now we are up to item 9.4, and I'm sure we can all enjoy future good health and hygiene at Byards Road. And I do also want to thank Councillor Ouellette for mentioning that fabulous book, What Bird Is That? Because it is a personal favourite of mine as well. We're up to 9.4. This is the Onkaparinga Grants Program update. Do I have someone, Councillor Themeliotis?
Move as written.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilkes?
I'm happy to second as written.
Yes.
I just wanted to pull out a question. No, I'll do a little bit of debate.
Yes, your time starts now.
Thank you. I just wanted to pull out a couple of figures from this grant allocation under the CEO delegation. We've got supporting local artist grants. It's great. 21,000. We're supporting 11 recipients. That's fantastic. The Fund Your Dreams grant is supporting 17 applicants. That's $4,550. And then we've got that. There's a couple of other ones in there, but these are the ones I've highlighted. And we've got the Sport and Active Recreation grant that is supporting 115 applications. I think this is fantastic. The only problem I sort of have seen here is that we are returning $13,796 back into our operating budget. We've had a big session on grants at the moment. All the elected members, I'm assuming, are on panels. We are all sort of doing those applications. I think I've got 28 sitting there to be done. What I sort of wanted to highlight was we had a really great meeting the other day where we spoke about an inclusive communities grant. I just wanted to bring that to the Chamber's attention. Myself and Lauren Dew on that panel and thought it would be a great idea. So hopefully moving forward, we can sort of just putting that out there to the Chamber so we know an inclusive communities grant might be really beneficial for another aspect there if we've got these grants overprescribed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Further debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now we're up to 9.5. 9.5, for those of you following online on a digital copy, it's page 149. This is the Strategic Directions Report. Councillor Dew, are you moving a motion?
Yes, thank you.
Do you wish to speak now?
Yes, please. I'd like to acknowledge that this is a really unique opportunity for us to be setting up the council for the future. Not only do we have the opportunity to develop the community plan, which is obviously a 10-year plan, but it's also to look at the strategic asset management plan and also the long-term financial plan. And as I said, this sets us up for our future. It provides us an opportunity to address the financial complications and challenges. It enables us to be adaptive to our community and also think about contemporary best practice approaches as we go forward. I wanted to really talk about the community engagement component of the community plan. Collectively, we've all agreed that we want to see a community plan that really is aligned with what community needs are. We want to be more transparent as a chamber, and we want to challenge the council as an institution to do the same for our community. So the community plan allows us, and the community engagement process allows us to build community ownership. I don't believe these plans are actually ours as an organisation. Instead, they're the communities. We might use them, but we need community voice at the centre. Our residents are the experts in their own lives, and I believe our role as councillors is to represent them and to ensure the vision and decisions made are aligned with our community strengths, resources and aspirations. So I thank staff for their openness to engage with the Chamber in the design of the engagement process. I'm really proud to say that it's the largest engagement process the council have undertaken, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this be an authentic process with great results and a great outcome for our local community.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Platten, are you second? Got a question?
I'll second. Thank you.
Do you wish to debate?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eaton, question or debate?
No, just a couple of questions.
Off you go.
I noticed that we talk about non-council managed facilities, so we talk about schools and shopping centres. We also have community halls that are part of our community that need to be considered. So we've got the Hazel Mackenzie Hall at Clarendon. You've also got the Cherry Gardens Memorial Hall. And there's also a need to include in there the community associations as well. So you've got the Northern Community Forum and even neighbourhood watch groups. So we've got a broad range of those sorts of groups. Have we got a list of, it didn't have, the report didn't have the list of the community groups that associations we're going to deal with?
Yes, so I think we can answer that question because it is a very fulsome strategy that we put in place. Who's taking that, Dan? Just introduce yourself because no one.
Hi, Dale Sutton, Acting Manager for Communication and Engagement. Thanks, Councillor Eaton. The stakeholders are listed in the plan, but the individual groups that we're going to write to, there's going to be a lot of community groups that are on our community group register. That includes groups like the Northern Community Forum and groups like you've mentioned. So we'll take on note the halls, but the other groups will definitely get an email about this opportunity.
And while you're there, can I ask, I think there's 800 plus on the community register? Yeah, so that's while it might be one category on our on the report, there are literally hundreds behind that. So thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Wilkes.
Sorry. I just wanted to quickly say something.
You're okay?
Okay, great. Yeah, just really briefly. So I find this to be an invigorating process as well. I think I just wanted to say that it's really great to see the team. They're so receptive, and it's even better because we've got another two. Moira, this is your forte, Mayor, sorry, and Councillor Dew. So being an outsider looking in, it's just really great to see the engagement that we're going to see in this plan with the community. And I really hope that it can do great things for Onkaparinga as most of the processes that we try and implement do. So thank you for bringing this to the chamber.
Thanks so much for that acknowledgement. Councillor Dew, do you wish to close debate?
Thank you.
Okay, I will put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. And just to acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of work ahead for all of us and also for all the officers. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we demonstrate our genuine partnership with community and with administration through this process. Item 9.6, Councillor Themeliotis.
I'm going to move as written.
Thank you very much. Do you wish to speak?
Yes, I do wish to speak.
You go.
Elected members, I hope that you will just support the motion that's put in front of you. We have engaged with our community multiple times now. We've gone out and consulted twice. We've gone on site and had on-site meetings with the residents and clubs. Council staff have filtered emails, phone calls on behalf of elected members on this issue. What we're looking at is a cricket club essentially that want to utilise the facility for 8 hours a week and a school that want to utilise the facility for 4 hours a week. We already have clubs that utilise the area for sport. What we've noticed is there is a lacking of turf areas in our council. And what we're going to have to do going forward, not just with turf areas, with all of our assets, is look at multi-use and shared use facilities. This is us going forward because there is need and we need to provide for that need. When I've been there when soccer has been playing on the oval and people still walk their dogs around the oval. It's a wide open space. There is still a nature play area. There are toilets there. When we had cricket come and give a deputation, cricket did mention that unfortunately, probably because of their players or the age of their players, they don't get a lot of people coming and watching their sport. So the amount of cars just are not there. I know there's some imagery that's been provided to elected members of cars. I'm not saying that's linked to the club. I actually don't think it is linked to this cricket club at all. So elected members, I hope you'll support this and I hope you'll support the Coromandel Ramblers to give them the opportunity. Why I think I really want to push to support Coromandel Ramblers. Some of you may not know, but they were caught up in the sports rorts scandal of the former federal government. So they were ones that received 90% and got nothing, should have been funded. So they've been hit so many times and they're just looking for an additional place to play a bit of sport for some seniors and some juniors and share with the school as well. And they allow our residents to still walk their dog around. We're not stopping you from walking your dog, enjoying the area, going to the nature play. It's actually a quite nice, big open area. So elected members, I hope that you'll support the minimal hours this club wants to utilise, as well as the school utilise the oval, and note that going forward, a lot of our areas are going to have to become multi-use areas.
Thank you. Councillor Eaton, are you seconding?
Yes, I am.
Do you have some questions or do you wish to debate?
Well, a bit of debate, actually.
Okay, off you go.
Right. One of the main issues that we've got with this is that you have residents that are concerned about the traffic, the volume of traffic that's going through there, because McGarry Road, particularly with the junction of Ackland Hill Road and Main Road right there, is a bit of a problem. You've also got to be very mindful that I would certainly like to see the licences come back to council for consideration, because what I'd hate to see is the whole weekend taken up, because a lot of people actually work Monday to Friday and it's Saturday and Sunday that they actually go down to this area and enjoy the atmosphere with their dogs. And of course, they let their dogs run around the oval because there's a lot of exercise, but they can't go too far east up the river because of the animals that are there. And also you've got to be very cautious with letting your dogs run around with the driveway into it. But certainly I've sent an email to everybody today in respect to a local resident's concern about it. So we must be very mindful that we don't rule out the whole of the weekend for them. And I'd certainly like to see those licences come back to us to just give it some consideration, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pritchard, question or debate?
Debate, thank you.
Okay, off you go.
I certainly agree with Councillor Themeliotis around more use of sporting facilities and more requirement for them. Certainly the residents' concerns around the traffic on McGarry and Ackland Road is something that concerns me, not necessarily to do with the cricket club, as Miriam pointed out. I mean, it could well be a group of trail runners that go there, having access to a single lane road. And I know that Councillor Bell, and not hoping not to steal her thunder, went for a drive up there and talked about the difficulties of getting into this driveway. So I think certainly conscious around that increase in traffic, or even without changing this, we need to have a look at that intersection and see what we can do. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, question, debate?
Both. If I can start with
a question.
3 questions.
Up you go.
Who's going to answer them?
Well, it depends what they mean.
So let's do a big one. I just wanted to clarify. Clarify if there had been a kind of more of a round table, face-to-face consultation with this process as there was last time, because I'm not who didn't that there had been, but I acknowledge that Councillor Themeliotis did mention some face-to-face. So I just wondered what council had conducted, please.
Just okay to take that. Say who you are. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'm Jeremy. I'm a strategic planner for recreation and sport, and I've been involved in this process since the beginning, since 2021. With respect to your question, it's been a long community consultation process. We've had 2 rounds of community consultation, with the previous one in June 2022, where we had a face-to-face session on site with around 70 members of the community present. So that's.
But this didn't happen this time with the most recent one.
Not with the most recent consultation.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Should it go through? What measures are going to be in place to make sure that there'll be that the low impact sport that is being referred to won't have any high impact elsewhere in the park, and particularly where a lot of cars have been parking during the last trial period, up to 60 cars, which have churned up the park, as I understand, and I've seen photos of.
Through the mayor. There'll be a licence agreement will be put in place with the particular clubs that wish to participate, and within that we'll have parking restrictions, and we'll also make sure that the sport is low impact. Low impact being the number of players, the number of spectators. Thank you.
All right, last question. Aside from the members of the local sporting club that are proposed to use it, what benefits will local community and current park users see from the reclassification in particular?
So they will. So the only change, the difference between the reserve community land management plan and the sporting ground is the high. It's more result focused and competitive sports in regards, and then where that's including training and competition sports, where the reserve only permits casual games. So that is the only change between the sporting CLMP and the reserve that will be noticed within the grounds.
Okay. If I may debate briefly as well,
Yes,
I just want to acknowledge the Councillor Pritchard, who did highlight that I had been to the park, and I had a couple of months ago. It really just it was by accident that I came upon some people I work with that knew that I was a councillor for the city of Onkaparinga. And I was meeting them, and I was invited to have a look at the park, and I'd been meaning to go up there and have a look because, of course, we've had this subject of council agenda previously. So I was very honoured to be shown around, and whilst I was there, I had the opportunity to also speak to a number of people using the park, and certainly a lot of concerns were raised about increased use of the park by sporting clubs and the problems that they felt existed during the trial period in the last 12 months, wasn't it? Is that right? And certainly walking around the park, I could see and understand their concerns. And what made it, I suppose, exacerbated the situation that they were highlighting was it was a few days after a flood had gone through, and I could see the damage that just the water had done to the area. And yes, Councillor Themeliotis, as she mentioned, it's a big park with lots of different areas that people can use. However, changing it to changing it from a developed reserve to a sporting ground would change the whole dynamics and how the park would be used. And I have concerns about that after speaking to a number of community members that sought to engage me and encourage me to come down and have a look, as I mentioned. I've driven now twice down to the area, and I notice how difficult it is to get access to Magiri Road, number one, and also how narrow the road is and how limited the parking is. There is my immediate concern every time I drive into the hills, particularly that side of the hills, is fire danger and safety. I don't see that the report necessarily addresses the safety concerns and addresses the parking, particularly parking that will end up on the grounds itself. And so for those reasons, and the reasons I've just mentioned before that, I won't be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Jones, a question or debate?
Long-winded question.
A long-winded question. Off you go.
Just reading the community engagement feedback report, there's a fair percentage of the community that are against the proposal, 28%. In fact, but there are some common themes. One of the no comments posted does present a considered view on page 195 of the report. I quote, "I do not oppose sporting groups playing here, as long as the oval and surrounds are still available to the public. I've also noted that on Saturdays when groups are here, there is already rubbish and impact to the environment by cars parking anywhere they can. So my questions in relation to that is, can these suggestions be addressed and implemented? And if so, can we please have some public communication around that? Thank you.
Through the Mayor, that'll be addressed through the licence agreements as well in regards to parking. And there will be clauses within there around rubbish removal and things like that.
So can I ask a question about, so the terms and conditions, if you like, of the licensing agreements, will there be anything in the one for this park that would be different to any other facility that we might have, or is it our standard set of agreements?
Through the Mayor, we haven't negotiated any agreements at this point, and we can negotiate we do have a standard template that we do start with, but we can negotiate any terms and conditions within that template.
Councillor Bell, a question, as you've already debated?
Yes, one more question, if I may, since I forgot this in my debate. Is a question about the bandicoots, really. I understand that the primary school that's adjacent to the park and uses obviously the grounds. A science teacher there recently won a grant to protect the bandicoots. Can you respond to that, please, and give me an update?
Through the chair, yes, there has been a grant funded through the primary school through Green Adelaide, and it's a bandicoot monitoring project which is undertaken in the wetlands surrounding Frank Smith Park Oval. Exciting, they have had a sighting of a bandicoot in there, which is fantastic. So yes, there is a grant program and the school does utilise Frank Smith Park for a number of educational programs, including environmental programs.
One more question, if I may. In view of that, does the council intend to be monitoring and assisting in managing and protecting the grounds or the habitat for the bandicoots?
Through the chair, yes, we through our conservation and environment team, we are undertaking ecological restoration through Frank Smith Park all the time as a developed reserve of council. Most recently, over the last 10 years, we've been looking at the sort of slow removal of blackberry, which is through the wetlands. And the reason why it's a slow removal of the blackberry, given it's a weed, but it's also a habitat for bandicoots. So we have been undertaking, work in that area, and it's maintained as a reserve.
And it's a very popular school program. Councillor Eaton, question?
Yeah, just one question. Has ever any thought been given to put some fencing, particularly in respect to that eastern end? Because a lot of people let their dogs off. Tessa behaves herself and doesn't go into that area, but even today I was there and there were a couple of dogs that went into that particular location. Is there any way consideration being given to put fencing on that eastern end to at least keep dogs out of, or reduce the chance of them running into the bush?
Through the chair, at this stage, I'm unaware of any proposals for fencing at Frank Smith Park.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, did you really have another question?
I do. One more question. Can the council confirm that the park is intended to be on leash? Is that how you say it? The dogs are supposed to be on leash, because I've seen the signs, and the dogs are required to be on a leash at all times in the park.
Through the Mayor.
Can we make that happen? Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. No, Frank Smith Park is not a dog on leash park, but the shared use trail which connects the park and other areas there, particularly along Sturt River, is dog on leash.
Thanks for that clarification. Councillor Themeliotis, would you like to close debate?
Firstly, thank you, elected members, for the debate. When we had the engagement on site under the big tent with the 70 residents, Frank Smith's family actually turned up to that engagement. And it was really interesting to hear from them. They've got like a really sweet backstory where Frank's dream. So if you've been to Frank Smith Park, it's a big open space, and then there's a big, like huge dirt mound that goes on a huge angle. And Frank Smith's dream was that was the grandstand, and his local SANFL team would be able to play a game at Frank Smith Park. So that was his vision. It was really great to hear that from the family. The family's been very supportive of low impact sports, because we talk about understanding the history of why things were, and to have his family sort of blessing for this going forward. It was really great, but unfortunately for Frank Smith, there will never be an SANFL game played at Frank Smith Park. At the moment, yes, the facility is being used by clubs, and I will say this and say this publicly, and I've mentioned this to a number of people, that the current licensing agreement with the soccer club, I feel like they've definitely taken advantage. I think they've done a couple of things that has led to the commentary in the engagement, that has led to the issues with some of the cars, and I think that council staff have recognised that, and in strengthening those licensing agreements, that's one point. And two, maybe not providing licensing agreements to certain clubs. Like if they can't prove to us that they're going to do the right thing, well, sorry, because we have other clubs who are willing to do the right thing and respect the residents and their locals as well, meaning the cricket club, they're local in the area as well, and they want to be able to share the facility with our club, with our residents in the community. One other thing I want to mention is there's a little bit of fear, and I think this is probably an elected member issue where elected members need to make some messaging really clear, because council staff have made it really clear. There's a bit of a fear that if you give a little, they're going to expect more. Now, from the start and the get-go, elected members as well as staff have made it clear that this is for low-impact sports. So we're not going to be seeing grandstands, change rooms, lighting. This is not what Frank Smith Park is about. The club have definitely accepted that. They understand that. They just want additional place to play a couple of hours low impact sport. So I'd like to hear, one, that we're strengthening those licensing agreements. Two, we may need to be a bit tougher on who we give them to, and if they haven't proven themselves, well then sorry, find somewhere else. And three, I hope that you guys will be able to support this going forward.
Thank you very much. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. We're now up to 9.7. Thank the officers for your help in that one. To page 217. This is to appoint an elected member liaison to the Christies Beach Business and Tourism Association. Councillor Platten, are you wishing to do something?
Yes. Am I allowed to move it?
Yeah, you can if you like.
Thanks. I'd love to move it.
Would you like to say anything else?
Yeah, I'm happy to say a few words.
Off you go.
All right. The CBBTA is full of some very enthusiastic local business people in Christies Beach. I'm very privileged that they've asked me to be their liaison, and I'd be more than happy to oblige. So feel free to support.
Thank you. Councillor Themeliotis, second. I second. Any further questions? I see no further questions. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. I should say against, but there was no nobody. It was a unanimous decision. Councillor Platten, please, we look forward to hearing from you on their behalf often. Page 221, item 9.8, the Code of Practice. Councillor Greaves.
Move as written, thank you.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak? No. Councillor Yeomans?
I just
a question?
Just a policy thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't spoken to Councillor Pritchard about this, but as a result of discussions at the ARC meeting last Thursday, it was proposed that a non be put forward at the next council meeting in October, asking elected members to consider an amendment to this code of practice by not publishing the ARC meetings on the council website, as reflected on page 227.
So, yeah, I might.
So what I'm trying to do, I'm not debating here.
No,
I just wanted to try and voice going out twice. If we're going to go out to consultation on this document.
Yeah, so it's not relevant to this item. I'll just ask for some governance advice. Sorry.
That's right. Yep, that's fine.
We get the intention. I'm just going to try and get into the rules and regs.
Again,
yeah. Off you go. Thanks, Therese.
through the mayor. So the code of practice that needs to be altered for the meetings recordings is the code of practice proceedings of meetings, which is not this code of practice. So this code of practice is just letting the public know that that is what we currently do. But in the meeting procedures is where the council would resolve to either record those meetings, not record those meetings. If that changes, then we would alter this code just automatically to update that. This code of practice basically just reflects what's in the legislation, what we currently do, our council practice. And so to actually move a resolution to alter the council practice, that would be in the code of practice proceedings of meetings, which governs the actual what happens in the council meeting. The novel can still be brought forward, but
thank you, Councillor Yeomans, for your active trust into the exciting labyrinth of rules and regulations. Councillor Bell, are you seconding this motion?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Greaves, did you wish to close debate? All those in favour? The motion is carried. All those against? Nobody's against it. We're all in favour of good behaviour. I'm thrilled to hear that. Which brings us to item 9.9, which is indeed the elected member behavioural management policy. I don't think there's any updates, no. So do we have a mover, Councillor Bell?
Happy to move.
Thank you very much. Councillor, do you wish to speak? Councillor Greaves?
Happy to second.
Any questions? Councillor Yeomans?
Just a couple of questions. Yeah, still get these ones through. Just a couple of things. What's the criteria regarding who manages complaints and who ultimately makes that decision?
Off you go, thank you.
The criteria through who manages a complaint for behavioural complaints, it sits with the council in this policy. So the council can decide who is a responsible person to manage the complaint. So in this policy, we're proposing that it's the mayor, and also we're adding the manager governance, and the deputy mayor is also a responsible person.
Yeah, and that was my second question. I haven't got an issue with it, but out of interest, is the inclusion of the manager governance as a responsible person to manage complaints consistent with other local government association policies?
When the local government association put out the mandatory policy, which covered all councils on the election eve, they also left a blank space for each council to add in who they may wish to put in as a responsible person. Haven't done a lot of research on what other councils have done at this stage, but I would say it's good governance to have somebody in to help manage those as well as a elected member. So we've got the mayor, the other deputy mayor, and it just gives a complainant another choice to have a responsible person manage the complaint.
And I can add a little bit to that, Councillor Yeomans, because I've asked a few of my peers and how they're managing it. As we've just heard from governance, there was a model set of rules that was put out as like a template to support councils with the new regulations and the new Act. And when talking with the acting CEO and also to governance and to our deputy mayor, the intention was to spread the opportunities. So if people did have a complaint against the mayor or the deputy, that there was still someone else administratively, but also someone who actually understood the governance regulatory environment. So that's why we've made it a little bit broader to give people some choice and also to maximise the best possible outcomes of a complainant.
If I can just add to that through the mayor, it's consistent with our previous process, and managing complaints can be quite an administrative burden. So it is an advantage to have someone from the administration enabled to be able to manage the complaint.
And there be no further questions. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. And that's terrific. Now we are up to item 9.10, financial quarterly finance report, including budget review Number 4, there's no updates dates, but there have been a number of questions which have been circulated and also available, which will be in the minutes and also on your tables. So do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pritchard.
I'd like to move as written.
Thank you. Would you wish to speak?
I've got a few questions.
Okay.
It was, just a little bit of preamble. It's good that overall it's slightly improved on budget review 3. Just a quick one on, 4 questions. Page 267 in the summary from the year 22-23, there was 1.8 million of capital underspend. And in the summary, it's 1 million is to forecast deficits. So my question for that one is, what are the deficits that we're looking to move that money to?
So through the Mayor, as we've previously reported, the construction sector has experienced considerable volatility due to labour and material shortages in recent years, and this has resulted in greater risk of higher pricing. At the time of finalising budget review 4, there are a couple of key projects at greater risk of budget shortfalls that may require additional council funding contributions, and these are the 21 intersection upgrades in McLaren Vale region and the Paul Murray Recreation redevelopment, as highlighted in an earlier report tonight. There are also a couple of other projects, some of which include external funding commitments that we're working through procurement processes for. These include the Aldinga to Noarlunga Trail and the Tatachilla Trail. Having this surplus funding available provides council with the ability to manage potential project budget pressures without further impacting our debt to deliver our approved capital works program. However, if the funding is not required, it will be returned, and therefore that debt will not be required to be drawn.
Thank you. I guess, is there a threshold on how much an individual project would take of that $1 million before it comes back to council chairman?
Someone willing to take that challenging question? Thank you.
Through the Mayor, not a strict threshold per se, but you'll commonly see things through budget review processes if it's of a significant value. So that's the way they would typically be resolved.
I guess the second part of that 1.8 million is a line item of $800,000 going to the TAFE leasehold improvements project. I'm not aware of this project. Do we? Can we get some background on that project, please?
So the TAFE leasehold improvements is currently an unfunded project that is required to facilitate the cessation of an operating lease for office accommodation. The lease of the site at Vicinity comes to an end at the end of this month, and there was an opportunity to consolidate the community services function in the TAFE site, which will bring some other non-beneficial benefits as well. From a financial perspective, the ceasing of the existing Vicinity lease results in a net operating surplus of savings of $260,000 per year. So the payback period for these leasehold improvements is 3 years.
Thank you. Only 2 more. On page 278, there was extra depreciation on $20.2 million of found and contributed assets. Do we know the split of these found versus contributed? Thanks.
So through the Mayor, $8.3 million were contributed assets and $11.9 million were found assets, which were predominantly identified through spatial audits and mainly consisted of stormwater assets.
Yeah. And last one was just around the additional revenue from the Visitor Information Centre. What was that cause of that additional revenue?
So just for some background, through the Mayor, for some additional background, the Visitor Information Centre is operated by our Economic Growth and Tourism team, and some areas within the centre are leased. Along with providing visitor information to promote our city and encourage visitor dispersal and spend, the centre acts as a shop front for local businesses and generates revenue through a range of value-added visitor experiences and products. The revenue-generating activities include gift shop, cafe, venue hire and events and functions, cellar door through lease and commission, accommodation and tour booking service commissions, art sale commissions, push and e-bike rental commission, and office and vineyard leases for wine associations.
It also might relate to the award-winning gin distillery outlet that is there, that is now being well documented in many international press locations. So we'll see that might be the revival there. Councillor Eaton, do you have a question, or are you seconding the motion?
I'm seconding, and I've just got a question. I notice in attachment 3, we make reference to the Happy Valley Sports Club at page 300 on a particular project. And we set an amount, but we don't say what it's about. And then if we go to page 303, we also again mention the Happy Valley Sports Club upgrade. And it's got a similar comment. It'd be actually helpful to actually say, let us know what it is, specifically that in each of those items, what they relate to, so as we know. Thank you.
To take that question? Or thanks, ma'am.
Through the Mayor, so that is funding related to a number of projects that have been grouped up as a part of the way that external funding has been provided to us. That's the change room project, the bowling club toilet facility upgrades, and the cricket net project. So the reason they're under that name is that's the way the grant came into us, for multiple projects to be delivered from a single grant source. So that's the explanation, I guess.
Thank you very much. No further speakers. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. We're now up to item 9.11, which was forecasted earlier with a comment from Councillor Wilkes, the appointment of independent member to the Southern Region Waste Resource Authority and Audit Committee. And we have a recommendation. Councillor Pritchard, are you moving?
Move as written, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell?
Yes, I'll second.
Any questions? Would you like?
I was just going to quickly give some background. Just quickly, the Swara ARC is a 4-person panel. 3 members, 1 from each of the councils, Marion, Onkaparinga and Holdfast Bay. 1 member from the actual Swara board, which is currently the chair. The recommendation is that that's an independent member from the council, so it's not an elected member because of the delay in approving our council audit and risk committee and then meeting with our audit and risk committee and choosing one of the independent members from our audit and risk committee to be the independent member on the Swara ARC. This is how we got to this point. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And so the council, this motion is now before you to appoint our the chair of our ARC, who is also an independent member, to be the independent member for Swara. So all those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. And I'm sure he'll make an interesting contribution. The next item, 9.12, is the council assessment panel for the independent member appointments. Councillor Eaton?
Certainly, I'll move it as written.
Thank you very much. Do you wish to speak? Councillor Greaves?
Thank you. Happy to second.
Second. And wish to debate? No. Any questions? Any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. We're now up to questions on notice, and there are 9.13, the council and committee reporting schedule. Apologies. Councillor Wilkes, are you moving this?
Yes, I'm happy to move it.
And did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, please.
Okay, off you go.
Sure. So, Council, I just wanted to inform you of something and draw your attention to this report and the reporting schedule. So on page 333, 333, the Southern Stars Netball Club has been deferred. We've got some various matters with ongoing stakeholders that needs to be confirmed. I just wanted to keep you in the loop and let you sort of know why that's being deferred, and also let you know my future intentions with this. So the issue is Southern Stars is a club that is celebrating their 50th year next year. They still don't have a permanent home. They are our second largest club in Onkaparinga, and as I said, have been going for 49 years without a permanent home. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but I put a NOM up in December. We had a couple of meetings. It seemed pretty straightforward, but now it's not. There's a lot of moving parts to the Southern Stars, which is why it's been deferred. I think it's really important that we give council as much time as possible to get this right, because we need to find them a permanent home, and that's what my motion called for. So I think it's great that they've asked for that, and it's obviously been pushed forward to November. That's awesome, and I thank the council for giving the issue that. Thank you for giving this issue the attention it deserves, because we do need to find them a home. I got my initial motion wrong, saying that we were looking for a permanent home, thinking it was going to be quite open and shut, and that is why the report has been deferred. So I just wanted to let you all know that is my intention with all of these moving parts. I will be putting a motion up in the SDC coming up, or the next council meeting, with the intention to find them an interim home. So it's always been an option and continues to be an option from the emails that I've got. The email we got today says a little bit differently, but we'll go through that when I do put the report up, that we can find them an interim home at William Hunt Reserve. And I just wanted to let you know that that viable option will be something that I'll be asking for when I bring another motion. So I really wanted to keep you in the loop and point out that council has requested more time to find a permanent home, but based on all the moving parts that are happening, and this probably cannot also be sorted by November this year. So as quoted in the schedule, there's a number of sensitive discussions that need to progress before accurate, meaningful and respectful public reporting can occur in November for a permanent home. So let's find them an interim home, and let's alleviate the pressure on the council and still support the club as we promised we would back in December 2022 when I sat in the meeting and we said we could do it. So I look forward to addressing this issue and bringing the additional motion to council seeking for an interim home for the Southern Stars Netball Club, either at the next SDC or the next council meeting. It's for the biggest club in Onkaparinga that does not have a home.
Thank you. Councillor Themeliotis, are you seconding?
Second, and a question. Do we have any idea on timeframe when the terms of reference of the First Nations Advisory Group is coming back?
Good question. Who can help us with that?
I've read the report, but I just want a bit more. I know there's some consultation happening.
There is, and I think we can get the
Through the Mayor, there's no set date for it to come back to council at this point. The group is not having regular meetings at the moment while the terms of reference review is happening. We hope it can come back in the near future, but I can't give you a definitive answer.
Is it normal for a group to not meet when the terms of reference are being considered?
Through the Mayor, I don't know that I can answer that question.
I'm happy to add a little bit to that because I'm on that group. So the terms, it's not that they haven't been meeting. There has been a consultation period, and which they have been the primary stakeholders of. So there's a meeting still scheduled for the 20th of October, something that's up. I could be wrong. So that's still on the books. And it would be at that point that we would also take some advice from them about where the timeline for new terms of reference. So that it's really still in a developmental phase. That would be what I would say. It's not that it's incomplete work because we still have to have one more meeting. Mm-hmm. So that's where it's up to at the moment.
Okay. All right. I'll just debate really briefly, just to say that I'm sort of hearing from members of the First Nations Advisory Group that they're not aware of what's happening. There seems to be some sort of breakdown in communication, that they don't understand why they're not meeting, which is really odd because this makes it clear that something is happening. So then I'm a bit concerned and I'm confused. And I'm also a little bit concerned with some of my questions on notice around Witton Bluff and the First Nations Advisory Group not even being looped in, updated. I don't know if it's an email or whatever it takes, but we have this group for a reason and we need to be utilising this group, or then it makes the purpose of the group sort of why have it?
So let's just, that's kind of extending beyond this motion. So I'll just put the motion. Are there any other questions? All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're at the point where we could take a moment's break. And I know that there are people who are thrilled with hygiene and health and wellbeing. So I'm wondering if I can have someone to adjourn for 10 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Drew. Councillor Platten, were you seconding that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So we will return at 9:15. That gives you a good 10 minutes. In your folders, and those questions that were not answered will be answered in the minutes. We now have moved to motions on notice. So we are up to 11.1. Councillor Wilkes, your motion is up. I don't believe we've got any further updates, and I believe there was an amended version. Is that correct? Yes. Councillor Wilkes, would you mind? Very good, thank you. Is this the amended? We're putting it up now. Thank you. If we just wait for our incredible team to update. There we go. Is that correct now?
Well, the yellow was an addition to an addition that I'd already sent through. So there's actually further changes than just the yellow to what you're seeing.
Can you read out what you've got?
Sure. That council partners with Bowls SA in the development of a state-wide Bowls infrastructure strategy with a focus on identifying a current lawn bowls site that can be upgraded to a regional scale Bowls facility in the city of Onkaparinga. Preliminary findings from Bowls SA in conjunction with the city of Onkaparinga will be presented to council in March 2024. The report to the chamber will include short and long-term goals of the council and how these will be measured, timeline, budget constraints, pressures or opportunities, and a strategic direction for the regional scale Bowls facility.
Thank you. So as you can all see on the screen, that is what Councillor Wilkes read out. Councillor Wilkes is moving it. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, definitely. I'll give some background.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so this came about from a meeting that Councillor Platten and myself attended we had the state government, Bowls SA, we had Sport Office and Sport and Rec, and we also had the Port Noarlunga Bowls Club with us. We were having a conversation there regarding a regional facility in our area. They particularly wanted to put it at Port Noarlunga. So once we had that conversation, we did a bit of digging. I did a bit of digging because once the outcome from that meeting was that Onkaparinga would do a regional scale plan in our area and find sort of if Port Noarlunga would be an appropriate club. Now, I found out that Happy Valley are interested in this. We have Port Noarlunga, and then there's several other bowls clubs in Onkaparinga who would like to become the regional facility. So I thought let's get a blanket sort of overview and report to come back that includes a possibility of looking at all the clubs. So we're not just focusing on one club. So I wrote the NOM. That's the one you see in here. Fantastic. And then now we've had some questions from Councillor Themeliotis that asked, are they in informal questions? Are they? Did you send them through? I'm not sure. Okay, cool. Just getting some clarification. I've also had many conversations with Nick Carr about his meeting that he's had with Bowls SA that also talks about doing a wide-scale approach across Onkaparinga. This changed the direction of the report coming back that has been implemented by council, and now it will be undertaken by Bowls SA, and we will support that report so that then we get sort of not first takings or first pickings, but we get a clear indication for our region, and then we will be able to create our report from the Bowls SA report that will give us a really wholesome, not only Onkaparinga view, but a South Australia view. Well, I'm not sure everyone's laughing at me, but that's okay. So I just want to give a bit of background too about how important bowls is in our area. We have 2,335 bowls pennant players playing in the southern metropolitan area. And then in our Onkaparinga region, we have Aldinga, Wollonga, McLaren Vale, Christies Beach, Morphett Vale, Reynella and Happy Valley, which has got around 900 pennant players. That doesn't include Night Owls, which is I heard is great fun. This is going to bring, if we can get a regional facility, an upgrade to a facility in our region that's going to promote greater participation opportunities, expand club membership. We're going to have community inclusive programs. We're going to expand the school programs. There's a whole raft of issues, a whole raft of benefits that our community are going to love if we can explore this option and hopefully implement it. So definitely interested in looking to get this supported by the chamber so that we can see a regional facility in our area that will support bowls growth and playing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Platten.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to second this.
Do you wish to debate?
And yeah, just a short quickie. So I was also at that meeting with Councillor Wilkes, and I felt that it was important to support an approach which didn't just look at the Port Noarlunga Bowls facility, even though it's a very large area of underutilised space, and I think that it would be really good to have a regional bowling facility there. Councillor Wilkes has already spoken to essentially the whole of the gist of it, but what I really wanted to reiterate was that we don't have any regional facility for bowling in the south, and this is a growth sport which is age inclusive. It caters for people with all abilities, and I think it would be a real asset to our city. And I highly advocate for a report to come back to look into this and to advocate for it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dew, question or debate?
Debate, thank you. I'd like to support the motion. Just to mention that I'd also probably the last, 2 years actually, had a relationship with the Wodonga Bowling Club, who are really interested as well in their scale and growth. So that would be an exciting opportunity for the local area to be considered within that, which is really exciting that the scope's broadened. Like Councillor Platten said, bowling is accessible, it's for all ages and all abilities, and it'd be wonderful to see more pathways for elite sport for our community to transition to and to provide opportunities for a regional site. I'm in support.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard, question or debate?
Debate, thank you.
Happy go.
Obviously, earlier in the year, I forwarded an email to all the elected members and the directors group around the McLaren Vale Bowls Club, approaching myself around their facility and what they can do to upgrade. So definitely this method of engagement hopefully will stop the competition between all of these different groups in terms of getting bowls essays, advocacy. I guess the second part is that we need to engage other advocacy options in state and federal government, and hopefully that will be considered as part of this, because clearly in our budget position, getting a report back that determines that a facility would be fantastic and giving us options for where it could be is going to be one thing, and then funding it is going to be a second. So certainly hope that advocacy piece comes to that live advocacy plan that Councillor Themeliotis talked about earlier. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'll just have one question, and that is, as partners to a process like this, will we be involved in signing off and shaping and signing off, that's probably the right order, the terms of reference for this piece of work?
Through the chair, I'm answering you. We're developing a really good relationship with Bowls SA, so we're looking forward to working with them, and I think we'll have the opportunity to shape the project scope. So yeah, we'll influence that as much as we can. Thank you.
Thanks. All those, there's no further questions, no further debate. I will put the motion. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Wilkes, would you like to close? No, oh, you would. Oh, what a surprise. I know you're just full of surprises this evening. Hang on, you need to, we really would love to hear you. So there we go. Your time starts now.
Well, I was just going to say, on August 18th, when we had the meeting, there was 5 key stakeholders there: the state government, the Office of Sport and Rec, City of Onkaparinga, Bowls SA, Port Noarlunga. I think McLaren Vale should have been there, or Denga should have been there, Happy Valley should have been there, because everybody wants their facility to be upgraded to a regional. So I think I didn't clarify it in here, but we have discussed that we'll be putting around 10,000 into this report. I just wanted to put that out on record. And then I just wanted to say, yeah, that I think this is really going to be a great opportunity for one of those clubs, hopefully, to become a real focal point. And I have heard that Bowls members love to travel. So one regional facility is more than enough in Onkaparinga, so that the battle begin.
Okay, I think we can now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? It's now carried, and I do apologise, Councillor Wilkes, for missing that opportunity. Councillor Themeliotis, 11.2.
Yes, I'll move the motion as written and briefly say a couple of words to this of my intent. What I'm trying to do is flip the way we do things in this council. And what I did was actually really reflected on the previous chamber and a lot of the probably pretty bad behaviours that happened around asset rationalisation and the commentary from elected members and some of the really awful things elected members did in our community around asset rationalisation. So what I'm suggesting is merely we have a workshop and we get together and we work out, we sit down with council staff and see what parcels of land council staff have divided up. Identified is the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Councillor Dew. Identified, if it's parcels of land, if it's buildings, if it's easements, whatever that is, and we get the first past the post. We look at it first and we say to council staff, well, you know what, these ones, I'm willing to test with the first stage, which is testing our community and engaging with them. It doesn't mean sell off. It means the first stage, right? Asset rationalisation is actually really a big, giant, long process that feels like it takes forever. So saying to council staff, if these ones come to the chamber, these are ones I would feel comfortable testing my community with. Saying to council staff, these ones here, no way. This is not happening, not in my community. I know my ward, this is not happening. But maybe also saying to council staff, you know, these ones here, I don't know enough about. So I want to go visit them or I need more information from you. So what I'm trying to do is do some work early. So then when those things come back to the chamber, we're sort of well across it and elected members, us ward councillors can get up and clearly say to the chamber, we are confident that this item could go out for the first stage, which is testing our community. So I hope you'll support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Eaton.
Yeah, certainly, I'll second that. Some of us were advised of the land packages that could be considered getting rid of in the last term. And I actually had a bit of a chance to have a look at some of those in Thalassa ward. But it is really important that elected members do understand. And we saw these horrible delays and a whole range of undermining processes in the last chamber. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Platten. Question, debate.
Just a short debate. I am also in support of this. I don't know how many times we've asked, but I definitely recollect a number of times that we've asked about lists of asset rationalisation. I would like to be on the front foot when it comes to being able to talk to my community about potential asset rationalisation in the area, and I think this is a good step. I also really love to have get-togethers with my elected member friends. So.
Thank you. I'm pleased to hear that. Councillor Wilkes.
Are you referring to your birthday celebration yesterday, Councillor Platten? No, I think this is a great idea, Marion. This is a question or debate? Oh, debate. Sorry, yes, please.
Here you go.
But then there is a question in there, but it can be under the debate because it's not very long. So this is fantastic. The only question I'd love to see, maybe an option to be put in there, would be that we also have the option to suggest parcels of land. And if maybe the council would do that. So if we know in our area that there is land that could be as well, you know, favourable to sell, I'm not saying that I've got a list, but, you know, that option in there at that same time. So we can bring something to the table as well.
Thank you. I'm sure that the staff are taking note of the debate. Councillor Dew, question or debate?
Mine's a question.
Up you go.
Just in relation to how, like, I was just thinking around how do we take away bias and objective, like how we become objective in our decision making. So what I mean by that is that we have a really considered way of weighing up and making good, robust decisions around it. So I wondered if maybe council could develop like an instrument or a decision-making matrix or something like that to help inform, or if at this stage, because it's only in its infancy, it's just really about getting a sense from us, and if that's good enough, then that's fine. Just was interested to know what you thought.
So Councillor Themeliotis, are you willing to take that as a question?
Yeah. Briefly, I think what would be really important for council staff when we have, or if this workshop is supported, that council staff explain to us how they identified this, like how they came up to these options, so then we've got a better understanding. That could be.
Thank you. I'm conscious that the staff are listening, and I'm sure that this will help them shape and frame and design. Councillor Greaves. Thank you. A little bit of debate, maybe a question or two thrown in there too. Let's start with the debate. You want to start with the debate? Let me start with debate. Okay, your time starts now. Thank you. Look, I appreciate where the intention of this is going. I don't know about the timing. I'm in November. I'd actually like to see a little bit more thought given to this particular, given our new CEO. And I think he's flagged this as part of a broader sort of a strategic approach to looking at what assets we have and how we can actually maximise the benefit to council in the long term. So hopefully there's enough time between now and the 28th of November to have some of the thinking around that. I think having a confidential session is probably a good idea. Just because it means that we can, I guess, rip the Band-Aid off and actually have a true, in-depth conversation without it compromising any sort of future commercial arrangements around it. I think it's good that we're actually discussing this and actually thinking along the lines of removing some of the biases. And certainly you're all aware of some of the former approaches that have been brought to the chamber around asset rationalisation and the challenges that we had as a chamber in actually coming to a decision. So I think it is healthy for us to have this debate. I think it does need to be a much more strategic approach, and I certainly would appreciate Fu's input and certainly the staff's thinking around how we can develop that. And I just want to bring everyone's attention that workshops are not decision-making places. So this would be a canvassing, an identification, an information session, helping to frame up what a decision-making process might look like, but it wouldn't be a decision-making event. There's no further questions. Councillor Themeliotis, would you like to close debate?
And I was actually just going to jump on what the Mayor exactly said, that this is not for us to make decisions. Again, asset rationalisation isn't so straight away. It's about opening up a conversation with our community. The date in there was actually suggested by staff. So if this goes forward and we just can't make that date, we'll get an update through weeklies or something that's not going to hit that mark, and we'll push it out. And I think what it will do is start opening up discussions with elected members, which will come after this, around if we do go down this process and there is a sale of an asset, what that means. So for me, it's always been my ward. A portion of that comes back into my ward, and a portion of that goes to, it might go to debt, it might go to something else, but it will open up that next stage of discussion for elected members. So I hope you will support this for the initial stage.
Thank you very much. No further questions, no further debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Platten, item 11.3, your motion.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Councillors, this particular notice of motion relates to 108 Esplanade, Port Noarlunga. Regrettably, I didn't put a picture into my nom, so let me paint you a word picture. So this parcel of land, which is owned by the Department of Transport, is at the end of what the locals call Lovers Lane. So this is, as we go towards a spit, it's part of a sandhill. Still, it's been owned evidently for a considerable amount of time. It's right at the end of the houses that are on the Esplanade, so it's never been formally built on or changed. it was brought to my attention by a local resident that this particular parcel of land had been gazetted, and so I did a little bit of digging and found that it is indeed on the agenda for the Department of Transport to potentially sell, and they've approached council to ask for guidance in what it could potentially be used for. The land is zoned for residential development, and while the council have reiterated to DIP that there would have to be design considerations, etc., I thought that it would be poignant to bring it to the Chamber's attention that this is not seen positively in the local residents' eyes. So I was under the impression, evidently naively, that we had left behind the days of building on sandhills, and we recognise the importance that they serve not only to our community but to the natural flora and fauna of the area. Portmilanga sandhills are an incredibly important space. I mean, we visited how important the sandhills were when we had the Wearing Street debate, and so I would be deeply concerned if development of housing, residential development, was allowed to occur on these sandhills. It's been pointed out to me that the city of Onkaparinga, in conjunction with the Botanic Gardens, has been doing some native flower daisy research, and on this particular plot of land, although quite small, it does contain some advanced species and some advanced plants that have never been touched. And so from an ecological point of view, I think it would be sad to see it bulldozed. So what I'm asking from the Chamber tonight is that we recognise the importance of the significance of this parcel of land, and that one of my personal favourite things is that the Mayor wrote a letter to the Minister for Planning expressing the concern that the community has for the potential loss of this valuable piece, and that the Mayor reiterates in her letter that the community is calling for a transfer of ownership of the land for nil consideration, or for the Department of Environment to take over the land to have it preserved.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkes.
I wish to second the motion as written.
And do you wish to debate?
I'll just say, Councillor Platten, thank you for bringing this important issue from our ward to the Chamber's attention, and I really hope that you can support it.
Any further questions, debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried, and I do love to write to Minister Champion. We are regular correspondence with one another. So we now come to item 11.4, and I'm very grateful and want to acknowledge that Councillor Platten is picking this up on behalf of our deputy. Councillor Platten.
Thank you very much. Here we go again. So Deputy Mayor Michael Fisher has been working on this, and I'm also very grateful to be asked to pick it up for him. So it's something that I also believe in. This is an opportunity for the council to run a campaign to advocate to the community to plant trees on National Tree Day, which continues to call Arbor Day, and I think that that's a lovely sentiment to a bygone generation. But National Tree Day gives us the opportunity to show the public how important trees are, to advocate for planting to be done not only on public land, which is something that the council spends a considerable amount of money on, but to advocate and lead the way for residents to plant trees on private land. It allows us to have the opportunity to work with partners in the community, to work with our networks, schools, sporting clubs. There's a whole range of lists here to have community ownership over planting trees so that those trees are celebrated and we can genuinely build a forest in our community. It comes with a whole list of health benefits. I mean, this chamber has been nearly at every meeting talks about trees, and I appreciate that. I would appreciate your support. This one is pretty simple. It's a campaign. to get people to plant trees.
Thank you. Councillor Dew, are you seconding the motion?
Yes, please. And I'd just like to say a couple of words. Off you go, please. So as we know, like Councillor Platten said, we've been talking about this for some time, and we know as a city that this is a big piece of work. I feel that this motion really it sets out the fact that we can't do this alone, and this provides an opportunity to educate and enable our community to do it together. And ultimately, tree planting is everybody's business.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilkes, a question or debate? No. I would just like to say that while it's a campaign which will culminate, so the campaign begins and then, as I understand it, all the way through to National Tree Day. So no further questions or debate. I put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion's carried, and I'm sure that you'll be relaying that to our absent friend this evening. 11.5, Councillor Stafford, this is your motion.
Yep.
Off you go.
So I'd like to debate, I guess.
Do you wish to debate? Yes.
Yeah.
Off you go.
So I want to take councillors back in a part of my life, back to the year of 2020 when I was still in high school, in my last year of high school. I know, too long ago to imagine for some, but bear with me. So pretty much every day on my way to school, I would walk through I can't remember the name of the road, but the wetlands in my ward. I would walk through the wetlands, up Christie's Creek, up Emu Creek, up to my high school. And it became really apparent through my time in high school, that the Christie's Creek, it just gets a lot of rubbish in it. Like it's as if someone has done all of their shopping and then just thrown everything that they bought that was plastic into Christie's Creek, and oftentimes threw the trolley in with it. So I'm just going to keep it quick because I'm just asking for a report that I really think something needs to be done about the trash in Christie's Creek. It's a haven for litter. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you. I'd love to second the motion as written.
And do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you, Councillor Stafford, for bringing this to your attention. It's to bring it to the Chamber's attention. It's amazing that that awareness of seeing that rubbish in the creek has led to this, and you can make a real difference there for the creek, for the beautiful creatures that are in the sea where the outlets are. And I think I've heard on the grapevine that I love that point, that last point about the state advocacy plan, because I know that this can be a passionate piece for our local MPs as well. So if we really do tie into that, we can get some great outcomes here for the creek and for our environment, which is really important. I know that you've been attending lots of the clean up litter days, as you mentioned in your background, so that's really great as well. Every little bit counts, and I really love to see how we can sort of look at the inlets and the traps coming into the creek too. So so thank you for bringing this to the council's attention. I look forward to seeing the report.
Thank you. Councillor Platten.
Thank you.
Or debate?
Debate, please.
Yes.
So I'd also like to thank Councillor Stafford for bringing this to our attention. It's a real point of mine, the Christie's Creek. It certainly goes through both our wards, and it's really important to bring this to the Chamber's attention. The Christie's Creek, for those of you who don't know, who live out north, exits at Christie's Beach, and it's a real downside of the south that a large amount of waste, including plastic waste, exits there. And I think that there could be an enormous amount of can't say that word, but we should advocate to the state government on a whole range of points. This isn't something that's going to be cheap by any means, and it's not something that I personally expect the council to fully fund, but what we need is something so that we can go to our state elected members and we can say this is what our community needs and this is what our community expects. So I really hope that the members in this chamber tonight support this, and we have a report back and we can finally start to see what we need to do to change the Christie's Creek area. you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Drew, question or debate?
Question, please.
Yes.
I've got a few, they're not really for Councillor Stafford, so I don't know, I'll just.
See, if you make a start, we'll see where we
Okay,
go.
yeah, beautiful. So I wondered, if the city has taken a strategic approach with litter. So what I mean by that is there's a number of creeks and waterways across the city. And have we conducted a survey or a report in terms of how we can mitigate litter across the city, identifying particular key water tracks?
So how our waterways work?
Yeah.
And how litter works with our waterways.
Yeah, so and you know, taking on Councillor Platten's great initiative, those
Councillor Stafford.
Councillor, did I say Platten?
But that's okay.
No, it's definitely Stafford. You know, how can that be? Has that been considered across the meeting? Yeah,
well, I think we have someone to help us with that first question. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, yes, in particular Christie Creek is a known issue for us, and over the years we've built a lot of different trash racks and different facilities in the creek within council's funding constraints, if you like. It's a good motion and one that we progressively work on. So it will be good to actually update that, bring that back to the chamber to actually show what the broader catchment is for that. Secondary to that, we're doing some work as part of the waste strategy around public, especially the foreshore, and especially around townships where there is an increased likelihood, and we are seeing more litter in those locations, particularly since COVID, in the public spaces especially. So it's not a consolidated strategy, if that's what you're asking for, that covers everything. There are pieces of work that are done across the board.
Thank you. I also, I'll go into debate and just sort of end with a question, I think. I just wanted to just highlight the fantastic bus tour that we did as elected members recently, that where we went, and it was headed up by Kirk and the directors and Fu, and we were able to see so many of the rich and diverse places across the city. And it was highlighted to me, I don't know actually where we were in the location, but it was in the north, I'm assuming around Happy Valley. Potentially there was another consideration in terms of the deep work that's happened at Christie's Creek. And I just wonder if potentially in response to your answer then, if this could be considered as a prototype that could then potentially be rolled out and more of a strategic approach across the city, given, you know, like I've done work with Rotary around the restoration of the Seaford wetlands, like we could go on and on about local spaces and the impact of litter. So I wonder if that's a consideration going forward in time.
Are you asking for an answer for that tonight, or a curiosity as we go forward in this reporting process?
I'd love to hear it because then I won't ask it again. But yeah, thank you as well, Councillor Stafford, for the question. Your motion.
Through the chair, as part of the urban creek recovery types of works that we do, and then how that's fully extended. So we've still got, from memory, still got 11 kilometres of creek to actually rehabilitate. And they're the worst sections of our creeks. So what we strategically looked at, where do we get the best bang for buck, which is where we did the 64 kilometres basically for a lower amount of money because they weren't quite as degraded. And in particular, Christie Creek, you'll notice that as a result of doing that work and cleaning out the woody weeds and cleaning out the willow and those types of things, it's actually created more flow, and that's created a little bit more erosion. We've got erosion heads. It's quite complex, which is really why it's good to be able to bring back a report. But then you've got Sorbia Creek in Happy Valley, which reaches all the way through. You've got Pedalers Creek. So we have all of these tributaries that all have unique issues and flow paths. By far, Christie Creek's one of the largest catchments that does have the biggest litter problem.
Thank you. And this motion also does have a relationship to the previous one, if we think about trees and creeks and the urban creek management.
Yes, that's correct. And I guess that's the key too, is then when you start looking at tree canopy cover, how do you fill that into your open spaces. Our creek lines are one of the critical places for that, but then the understory is also just as critical from an ecological perspective. So,
thank you. Councillor Bell.
I'm not sure if I've got a question anymore because I think all of them have been answered. Just to say in the short debate to support the motion, thanks for clarifying, Kirk, about the Christie's Beach creek being the largest of the catchments, because obviously I live in Kangaroo and there are obviously plenty of people that live out further east within the city, and all our creeks, like you say, are impacted. Certainly when you go for walks, and when I do, you want to clean things up, but you can't get down there, unfortunately, or a lot of rubbish is very big, like pieces of iron and roofing in some areas. But of course, the other challenge we've got is trying to get residents who have creeks running through their properties to clean their creek. So I'm just wondering, actually, that I could ask that question is, are we working with many residents and organised groups? Like, for example, I know that Kangaroo Primary School went for many years cleaning up their creek and it looks beautiful now. So I'm just wondering how much more work we're doing with other community groups as well, please.
Through the chair, I'd have to take part of that on notice. We do a lot of work with community groups, and I guess that's the role of Dew as well, and Greening Adelaide and the NRM board and the likes, because that's, private property owners have a duty of care and an accountability, just as we do as a property owner, as a council.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkes, question, because you've already debated. Yep.
Just wanted to ask, just to gauge the scale sort of Christie's Creek, and I know I've heard this before and I can't remember if I was talking to you, Kirk, but how many inlets are there into the, okay, because I remember hearing like there's 48 inlets or something, so like 4 pollutant traps on all of those inlets, but I just wanted to really
through the chair, yeah, there'd be at least that. I couldn't give you off the top of my head regards to the pollutant traps. The pollutant traps we have are larger scale. So
yes,
where you start to talk about inlets, you're talking about anything from a pipe from 300 mil to 600 mil, if you like. It's not necessarily feasible to have a pollutant trap on every single one of them. These are the types of things that we will explore as part of the report to give you a broader context of what's efficient, what's not efficient. Ideally, people would stop littering and we would actually stop it at the root cause rather than treat it at the end of the line. That's the most expensive place to treat it. It can come back to things as simple as, we have 5 street sweepers. If we had 6, would we actually get the streets swept a bit quicker? And you'll pick up more rubbish before it actually gets into the system. There are all of those sort of things that need to be taken into consideration. So it's actually a little bit more complex than just having treating at the end of the line is probably not necessarily the right outcome.
So thank you for that preliminary budget bid, and we have no further questions or debate, so I will put them, ask Councillor Stafford if he would like to close debate.
Yeah, I would like to close debate. I'd just like also, if we're doing thank yous, to give a shout out to Councillor Platten, because he helped sort of lead this motion. I kind of just put my name on it. My bad. Also, I think it's worth mentioning with the Witton Bluff Base Trail that we've put forth today, with it going to Christie's Beach. It's important that Christie's Beach looks good, doesn't have rubbish. So it's good to kind of get that rubbish before it's going to the end of this major project we've just put forward. And I do just want to point out something funny, which is the sort of that Morphett Vale, the most populous suburb in our city, is all of our rubbish is just kind of going into Councillor Wilkes and Councillor Platten's. My bad, guys. Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you for doing so.
Thank you, Dan, for steel manning my.
Thank you, Councillor Stafford, and all the Staffords who contributed to the jokes this evening. If we can put this motion now, all those in favour?
All those against, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. And now, Councillor Stafford, you are also up for 11.6 around feminine hygiene product dispenser.
Yeah, I'm just asking for another report. Something that's worth mentioning, actually, for note of the staff, is I went on Operation Flinders from Friday to Saturday, and I happened to go on that trip with two of the girls that run Taboo Period Products, which are a social enterprise that has worked in the past with multiple Adelaide cities. They're an Adelaide-based company. So that was just a funny coincidence, but it sort of worked out that they told me, to get in contact with them, and they were able to sort of give figures on how much it would cost, and they have experience in the space. So that's just a happy coincidence and sort of a shout out, I guess, a recommendation. Yeah, I don't know if I have too much to say. I do have more to say. I'm sorry, I lied. I tried to sort of square the bases and look at. I don't know if we would get a feminine hygiene product dispenser in every toilet across the entire city. That's probably unfeasible. I think it would, at the end of the process, just judging on how much it may cost, it may be that it just is put in toilets if this passes and then the other thing passes. It would be put in, toilets that are close in proximity to like major playgrounds and areas that there's going to be a lot of traffic, because you don't really want. It may just not be feasible to put it in the toilet that's in the middle of nowhere, I suppose. I also encourage any amendments to this if there's anything that you think I've missed. So,
thank you, Councillor Stafford. Councillor Wilkes, are you seconding the motion? I have a question.
No, I'm happy to second it.
And mate,
yeah, say something about it. Definitely. I think you've hit the feminine hygiene products. I may bring it to the chamber. I think it's fantastic. It really is. It's very progressive of you. Yes. So I think you hit the nail on the head there when you were sort of introducing it and summarising it. That a report to come back is a really good idea. And I think if we start linking sort of developments that are happening in the city, we have 70 public toilets. We're building 2 new ones. Councillor Greaves has pointed out tonight that we should be putting lockable toilets so they're only accessible during the day. So I think it would be really good in this report to sort of highlight how many lockable toilets we have, because also linking, and this is 401-page agenda, we have a lot of vandalism and destruction happening in our toilets. So if we are putting dispensers in toilets that are locked, we are really sort of reducing that fact, looking at our community and saying, okay, well, hopefully this is what the report will do, is sort of exploring our option of putting them in the toilets that aren't locked, that are going to be open to vandalism. But then we've also got toilets now that we're implementing, hopefully many more to come in our city, that are going to be locked at night. So let's give them the facilities to the community at the same time. I'm not saying I'm signing up. Let's sign the dotted line. Let's get the report. Let's have a look and get some information about our toilets, about feminine hygiene products, maybe a little bit of background of who's doing what in other councils, and sort of try and support women who get caught out, because let's face it, almost half of this chamber knows that's not very fun.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bell, a question or debate?
I'll start with a quick question to start with, see if council can answer it. It's just, I know that there's a campaign run in 2019-2020 period Pride that, in fact, Nursing and Midwifery Federation, where I was working, was involved in. But I understand the state government and schools have since responded to that campaign, and there's been a lot of education. So are you able to confirm what's currently involved in that process? I understand that at least schools are involved in providing the products.
I can. So that campaign and the initiatives around that were to do with period poverty. And so last year, the Commissioner for Children and Young People hosted a summit on period poverty, or might have been the year before actually, relating to the impact of women and young girls who might perhaps not be purchasing products for their own feminine hygiene. And the company that Councillor Stafford referred to Taboo, the co-founders of that. In fact, one of those was Young South Australian of the Year and that year. And so there's been quite a lot of work in that field, but from the state government point of view and from the schools, so not just state schools, but independent schools and Catholic schools as well, we're all involved in that, as well as not-for-profit organisations and women's service clubs like Zonta, for instance. We're all active in that process.
And nurses.
And nurses and health professionals, the Association of Social Workers, and also a number of social enterprise and B Corps as well.
Well, I just add to a little debate and just say that I support this as a health worker. Obviously, there's a lot of period poverty that the Mayor mentioned, and obviously we need to focus on breaking the shame and stigma associated with menstruation. And I forgot what I was going to say. I think we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Greaves, question?
No, quick debate actually. 2020, 2021, this chamber also considered a report around the provision of soap dispensers in our public toilets. And I think it was very surprising to probably a lot of us around the table exactly how much it costs. Great idea. And obviously in the age of COVID, hand washing is pretty critical. But I think what it highlighted is that even our 70 public toilets, there's a hierarchy of toilets, surprise, surprise, based on the amount of usage, where they're located. But more surprisingly was the actual cost to council to provide basic hand washing. Now, I'm not saying this isn't a good idea. I think from a public health position, it's a great thing to contemplate. But I think be prepared to see some pretty big dollars attached to it. With that, I guess the other thing is this the business of council? Big question. It is a public health issue, but is it council's responsibility or business to actually be, I guess, providing all of the services and facilities that people in our community may need at one point in time? Let's get the report back. I'm glad to see you've given a bit of time for that to happen. But I think, this is something that we as a chamber will have to start thinking about. What is our core business? And where do we need to put our funds, which provided through, our community's rates, to the best use? So I look forward to getting a report back, but I'm preparing you. There'll probably be some really big dollars attached to it.
Thank you, Councillor Platten.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions to start. Am I correct in saying that we currently have some vending machines in our council? And could you just talk to that a little bit and how many we have? Do you know?
Does anyone know the answer to that? I think.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we, in terms of dispensers, machines itself, we currently have 3 located at our council managed community centres, that being Onkaparinga, Seaford and Aberfoyle Community Centre, and they were funded through a grant approximately 2 years ago now from the Commissioners for Children and Young People.
And how long does that grant last?
So the grant itself has been acquitted. It was for $5,000, and the items that were purchased from that grant are still being used today. So we haven't had to replenish any of those items at this stage.
Excellent. And in this report, is there an ability, do you think, that a grant might also be funding this?
Yes, I think through the through this research and investigations, we would have to consider what external funding might be available for dispensing machines, but also the replenishment of future items.
Great. I'll move into debate if I can. Okay. So, councillors, I have a small amount of insight into this. For those of you who don't know, I run a vending machine. It's in the heart of Port Noarlunga, and my fourth highest selling item is feminine hygiene products. So there's definitely a calling for products in the local community. Now, my concern is around vandalism of machines, especially when money is involved. So again, from a vending machine owner perspective, I don't have any money, actual cash in that machine, and that's to avoid vandalism, people breaking in. So I think from a reports perspective, I think it'll be really interesting to see this come back and to see what is outlined and how it might be facilitated. I really like the vending machine model that we have. I think it's important to know how much it's going to cost if it isn't grant funded, and the potential there for attracting social enterprise in or community groups in to help with the cost of running it, and potentially looking at how that model might transfer to very popular public toilets or facilities in the area. So I certainly support it. I look forward to seeing what comes back, and there's no shame in asking. I think it's fantastic. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Councillor June, question or debate?
A couple of questions.
Off you go.
One is around, so if I go a step back, so period poverty, and then take a step back, and underlying that is potentially accessibility. So I wonder, given the installation of from the grant from the Commissioner for Children and Young People, Helen Conley, if this could also maybe consider where it's best placed within communities. Clearly toilets are accessible, but if people require additional support in their life because they're having to access this, are we best placed to be just dispensing them in the toilets? Maybe we are, but I wonder if there's, so schools are one place, community centres, so I just wonder if that could be considered more broadly. I'm getting nods, that's good. And the other question, just out of interest, it's not necessarily related to this, and maybe it's how long is a piece of string, but I get excited around the development of reports, but I just wonder around how much time they often take, which depends on scope, but also the cost to council when obviously you've got work already being undertaken and then we're requesting something through a motion. Is that okay to ask now, or should I? Yeah.
Through the Mayor, it really does come down to the type of report that's being asked. The Christie Creek one is really quite detailed, but it's work we would be doing anyway in a composite way, if you like. So there is an allowance, if you like, of staff's time to be actually in certain roles to actually be fulfilling council reports and council requests, no different than EM requests and those types of things. It's really difficult to put a number on the actual cost of a report. I think it's really respectful of you to actually ask that question, because sometimes you can actually, through noms, you can actually spend an inordinate amount of time on a report that actually goes nowhere. So, there is an inefficiency that can be built into council business through that. Both of these reports, are well covered, and you've allowed a nice piece of time. So it's actually more, it's easier to do a report when you've got a longer lead time that you can actually build into the report, rather than, next meeting we'll have a report on this, thanks, sort of thing, and somebody has to jettison the work that they're currently doing to do something. So I know that has fully answered you. I know in previous chambers there's been even, I think in one particular chamber going back many, many years, we actually put the cost of the report, like we actually calculated the hours and that, because they were becoming so frequent that was seen as a way to perhaps help stem that tide.
Well, I'm pleased that this chamber is so respectful. Councillor Wilkes.
Okay, I have a question.
That's good because that's all you're allowed.
It's to find out if this is going to be added into the report, which seems a bit awkward after we've kind of said. What I wanted to ask though was, will the council consider a third party providing a dispenser that is all inclusive, that takes the money and services and is there, we've spoke about innovation in this space with the young ladies that you met, but will that be included in the report? Hopefully not a cost of too many hours.
Yep. Thank you. Through the mayor, yes, I think we'd have to consider all options that were available in terms of the most cost effective and efficient way to deliver a programme if we were to deliver one.
Okay, excellent. And then my next question is, I've done a quick Google search and you've got like the National Public Toilet Map. You've got an app from that company. You've got an app from the Australian government, the Incontinence Foundation, and there's Play and Go Department of Health have got. So if we do have the ability to have toilets that have these feminine hygiene products, because everyone's app savvy now, do the council kind of upload our toilet locations to these maps, and will we have the ability, will we have the ability to sort of display that we have feminine hygiene products in the map?
I'm not sure what our mapping devices are, but I don't believe at the moment that the National Toilet Map offers that.
Okay.
I'm going to just take that question and maybe we can talk about how we influence the National Toilet Map to help with that. I also have a kind of a sort of a question, which is that, what opportunities might this, and you don't need to answer this, but what opportunities this kind of motion offers to us in terms of partnership with companies like Taboo, and I have insider information because I know they're looking at different kinds of dispensaries that are eco-friendly, that have the potential to be created from seaweed and all sorts of exciting things. So, there may well be some commercial and entrepreneurial opportunities from a range of different sorts of partnerships and different sorts of models. So I'd be keen to see that reflected in a report. Councillor Stafford, do you wish to close debate? No, I'll put the motion therefore as it is. All those in favour? All those against? The motion's carried. Thank you very much. We now come to the items 12, 1, 2 and 3, the petitions. I don't believe there's any further advice from any of those. So they are as presented. So I'll go through those one by one. Councillor Bell, are you moving this petition around the...
Yes, I'd like to move the motion and speak to it if I may.
Okay, off you go.
Just briefly, I spoke to the head petitioner only today, actually, after doing some phone tag for a couple of weeks. I support the motion, obviously, and encourage others to support it. It's a real problem in this area of our city with crime. And the head petitioner did report that a number of cars have been broken into, plants have been stolen, bicycles had been stolen, houses and window frames around the houses had been damaged, some broken windows. And he's gone to the extent of now organising to install CCTV, a big high front fence, and not everybody in that community can afford such luxury, really, to protect themselves. So I am concerned for the residents there, particularly after he told me that they found 2 crossbows in a reserve nearby. And he particularly highlighted that the issue of the paths through the suburbs there are an issue that obviously the people are gaining access to very easily from one street to another. So I encourage councillors to support the motion.
Thank you. So we're receiving this. Seconded, Councillor Pritchard, or do you have a question?
Yeah, just seconding the motion.
Thank you. Any further questions? Further debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion's carried. Thank you very much. The second petition is the ban on jet skis from Onkaparinga beaches, and do we have someone to move this motion? To receive the petition? Sorry, I do need someone. Thank you, Councillor Briggs. Are you moving the motion?
Move it to receive the petition.
Receive. Seconder? Councillor Themeliotis, sorry, I'm pushing the wrong buttons here.
Yeah, happy to move to receive. Just a quick question. The issue around jet skis, that's not a council issue.
Right.
So can I just get some commentary from council staff on that?
Yes, through the chair. The petition talks about two aspects. One that is in council's remit, which is whether we permit launching from our beaches and where on our beach we permit launching. But the premise, I guess, about having jet skis excluded from, in this petition, a number of beaches sits with state government. But I remind members that earlier this year, I think it was about February, Councillor Dew moved a motion to write to the Minister to create a swim-only zone at Aldinga Beach. We wrote that letter and actually only reasonably recently received a response, and we're preparing to bring that by way of a report to Council at the next meeting in October. So what we think we can do is try and amalgamate the two matters in that report.
Thank you very much. No further questions, no further debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. Our third petition this evening is from regarding changing jurisdictions of vehicle access to Onkaparinga beaches. Councillor Wilkes.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, go ahead. Are you moving the motion? No, so you don't need to, but I'm just asking.
No.
Questions?
Yep. Yes, please. Can you please explain just a little bit further, a bit more information on the further, so council note that further investigations will be undertaken. What are those further investigations?
So through the chair, just for context, this petition came to us Tuesday last week, and to bring a receiving report to council, we only had a couple of days to put this report together. But council's powers under the Local Government Act enable it to set, and council's foreshore bylaw enables it to decide where vehicles are permitted on the beach. And the way that power is framed, council can make those changes by a resolution of council. Once council makes a resolution, it has to be gazetted, it has to be published in a newspaper circulating in the state, it has to be added to our website and added to our bylaw. So the Act is very clear about the process when council decides where to apply the bylaw. What council needs to turn its mind to, though, is what does it want to consider potentially changing, and how does it want to consider consulting its community about any prospective change. And that's the process that I guess is really open for us to determine now, and is really the next step. So council might, if it's minded, ask for a workshop, maybe at the next available opportunity, to actually consider the potential options that are available to it in potentially any changes to vehicles on beaches, and how it might wish to consult on that. So that might be an appropriate way forward to answer that question about what methodology do we apply before council considers any changes to the resolutions.
Councillor Themeliotis, question.
I will move as written to allow council staff the time to undertake further investigations and report back to the chamber.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bell.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any further questions or debate? Councillor Platten? No? Councillor Greaves?
Thank you. Can I just also ask that in the report that does come back to council, that discussion on previous motions to council also be canvassed? Thank you.
So is that some like a list and an audit of, just to be clear? No. Oh, just the background.
Has also been brought to council on a few other decisions, and we've been through a whole process of consultation, etc. I just want to understand or bring that to the chamber's view.
whatever's might be new and whatever's happened previously. Thank you. Councillor June.
I've got a question. Ian just mentioned then the idea of an EM session. I wonder, there's a number of wards, so maybe it's a whole chamber conversation. That's absolutely fine. But I know particular ward councillors across the coastline would probably be extremely invested in this conversation. So does this, as it currently stands, enable us to have that include that process that you mentioned, Ian, already, or do we need to actually make an amendment to allow for a session to help us be a part of what the community consultation and that process looks like? Yes, I'm excited for the conversation.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question and through the mayor. Councillors, my understanding there has been a long history to this topic and obviously many different views around the issue. I think it would be prudent for us to revisit the issue that's been prosecuted previously and the data around that. And then as officers, we'll form a view as to how or whether we might progress that. What I would suggest to the chamber is that we need to do this with proper due care and diligence. And so we're taking the necessary time to make sure that's a fully informed conversation. Once we've had a chat with the team around what that might look like, we'll come back through the elected members. But it's just one of those topics that I want to make sure we take our time and do it right, because there will be many views around this topic.
Thank you. And I know this topic can be extremely contentious and there are polarising views. So I just want to get on the record and have confirmation that currently council doesn't hold a position on this topic.
Through the mayor, councillor, that is correct. We don't have any plans at this stage and we weren't intending to do any review at this point in time. Now that we've received the petition, we'll have a look at it, but there are no plans currently in place.
Thank you. Thanks for all those clarifications and your questions, everyone. We'll now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. That concludes all of the petitions. Is there any urgent business? I don't believe there is. So we'll now move a confidentiality clause. And I'll be inviting Councillor Stafford. Are you moving that motion?
You'll have to move us into confidence.
Thank you very much, as prescribed on the document. And Councillor Themeliotis.
Second.
As secondly, can I have all those in favour? All those against? The motion's carried. So for those who, I could see that the chamber's now empty.